is week 7 of the Woods Watch Party, and we're sending it back to homecoming 2015 against Yale. The Big Green came out firing with 3 blowout wins to begin the season, but they needed a statement victory over another undefeated Ivy League rival to truly make their mark. In front of a sellout crowd in Hanover, the Big Green let over 11,000 fans know this year would be a special one. Hey everybody, welcome to Week 7 of the Woods Watch Party. I'm Dartmouth football ESPN Plus broadcaster Tyler Murray, and we're excited to welcome in 2 phenomenal Dartmouth players to help us relive the Big Green's homecoming game against Yale back in 2015. First, let's welcome the all-Ivy wide receiver and return man from Boston, Massachusetts today. It's Ryan McManus. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, Tyler. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Originally from Minnesota, living in Boston now. Loving it and looking forward to watching one of my favorite games from the 2015 season.
The McMahon clan, of course, from Minnesota, working in Boston right now.
Minnesota Mafia.
With Buddy Tevens in the MVP program. We'll dive into that a little bit later, as we also want to welcome in the unanimous All-Ivy linebacker, 2-time, in fact, Will McNamara from Chicago today.
Thanks, Tyler. Good to have me. Here's the thing that I really was excited about is getting the nod. It's watching film, being able to hang out with the guys was something I always loved, and getting to do that here on the live stream with you is great.
It's a pleasure on our end as well. We want to first, before we dive in, give a thank you to our game sponsor today. Today's game is brought to you by our friends at Town Line Equipment. Town Line is a full equipment service and parts dealer of new and used tractors and construction equipment serving New Hampshire, Vermont, and New England. So thanks to you, Town Line Equipment, for being a proud partner of Dartmouth Athletics. So, guys, as you mentioned, Will, the prep, the videos, the studying for these games, it's obviously very important. What was the key for you guys as you got ready for this game on homecoming against Yale? You're both undefeated. Obviously, it's a big Ivy League matchup. What was the mood coming into this game? Will, we'll start with you.
Yeah, great question. I think with Yale, they're always going to throw a lot, and they're always going to throw underneath. They just lost Tyler Varga the year prior. We knew they were going to be a team that threw often, and they didn't really have a super established running game. And Coach Bruno at the time does a great job of breaking down film. Coach Dobes got us prepared and kind of saying, hey, here's what they're going to do. And you'll see it here today. They're going to bring a lot of under routes. They're going to throw a lot of pitches, a lot of sweeps. That's the type of team that Yale is. So we knew that coming in. We had a pretty solid game plan. You could see they're going outside zone right away off the bat. And we did a great job of coming up there and making a play. But that's what Yale's going to do. We know that. We've had success with them in the past. We had a great game the year prior in which we really battled. Ryan McManus had a great game. Dalen Williams had a great game. And we're thinking, hey, they're going to bring the same stuff in this game. We better be ready.
Yeah, just building off what Will said, and we knew that they had a high-power offense coming into the game, and both of us were undefeated, and we were excited to have them for homecoming because every time we play Yale, it's a hard-fought game. And the year before, as Will mentioned, it was a little bit closer than we wanted to, and when we had to claw our way back, and the emphasis for us on offense was trying to get an early start, jump on them early. And don't let up throughout the rest of the game. So didn't want to be clawing back from behind this year, and wanted to give the crowd a good show for homecoming.
Yeah, and you can see as you were talking, Ryan, Flo come and make a huge hit. I mean, when you have that early in the game, that's huge for us. When Flo could come up, Flo's a younger guy. He's a junior, the only junior on the senior team, on the senior defense pretty much. We had 10 guys starting as seniors. To make a play for us like that, even after a game, really excites you.
Yeah, the level of experience on this team was pretty incredible, and I don't know if a Dartmouth team has had this level of experience or this number of seniors starting. I think we had 4 to 5 fifth-year guys that came back, everyone that was contributors or starters. And, as Will said, 10 and 11 starters on defense, all seniors. So a lot of experience amongst everyone on both sides of the ball, and that definitely showed and helped carry us through the season.
Yeah.
Can you remember maybe in training camp the expectations for you guys? You mentioned how experienced the defense was. You look at the couple of seasons before, it was 6-4, 6-4, and then 8-2 in 2014. was the vibe around the training camp kind of this is our year, or did you need those first 3 games? Because you guys had 3 blowout wins to start things. And Ryan, it was your 5th-year senior season, so we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, for the first 3 games, I only played in Georgetown, and unfortunately got rolled up on pretty good, and so was able to watch the Sacred Heart game and the Penn game from the sidelines, which was I had the best seat in the house for those ones. Offense came out, new guys stepped in, and the defense has always played lights out. And I think this year they led almost every category in the nation behind fours there. So it was great to be back for this game since I'd missed the prior 2 games, and it was quite the game to come back for. I can't remember what your original question was. I've been hitting the head a few times over the years. So
well, I'll give you a follow-up because
you might have to remind me a couple times throughout the game.
I was going to ask about the ankle, Ryan. Was it 100%? Did you have to talk your way into this game after missing 2?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember on Thursday during shells practice, and then on Friday I was running routes for Coach T and Coach Clark and Coach Taylor at the time, proving to them that I could cut both directions, and maybe not being fully forthcoming with the level of pain that it was causing, but I was able to talk my way into it and taped it up, and the training staff and Dr. Carr did a great job helping me get there. So it worked out, and I was more than happy to be out there, and missed playing with those guys, and it was my last season. So it would take a lot more than a sprained ankle to try to keep me out of this one, and it's a long way from the heart, right, Mac?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think for me coming into the season here, Tyler, was we had a couple phrases going around the locker room. One of them was, don't crash the keys of the Cadillac because – I'm sorry, don't crash the Cadillac because the Cadillac.
It's hard to crash keys, really, Mac. You crash cars.
Yeah, Dave Caldwell will be upset with me screwing up that phrase because we were using it all the time. I mean, it was a big, hey, stay healthy type of year because we knew what we had. We weren't, cocky about it. We were confident, and we knew that, hey, we had a bunch of senior guys. We had Shai Reese coming back, Ryan McManus coming back, a couple fifth-year guys that we knew could make a real difference for us. Eric Wickham was a huge player for us, and a great person as well. And so when we were coming in the season, we're saying, hey, we have the opportunity to dominate. We didn't come in and feel like we were going to walk over everybody. It was a situation that, hey, we know it's going to be hard, but we have the guys to do it. And then a shout out to Coach T and Coach Dobes and Coach Clark for recruiting great guys. Friends of Football obviously had a huge piece in that, but we knew, this was the year that we had all our guys. Not saying we didn't have that in prior years. We felt we should have won before, but this was really set up for, to be a great year.
And I had it written down the first time we saw Coach T on camera. Apparently this was the week that Coach Stevens was on late night with Stephen Colbert and the mobile virtual player, the tackling dummy. Do I have that right, Ryan?
Yeah, no, I think Coach T took off right after practice, went down to New York City, and made it back in time. Didn't miss a minute of practice or team organized activities. So it was awesome to see. And I can't remember what it was going on, but there was some sort of game prior to the show that went into overtime and kept pushing the show with Coach T further and further into the night. But I remember staying up with my roommates, a bunch of other guys on the team watching it, and it was pretty exciting to see him on the late show. So we found it funny, and it was awesome to see, and good for Dartmouth, good for recruiting, good all around. So it was quite the spectacle to see your head coach in New York on the big screen, and then back in the morning there for meetings.
So Ryan, is it true? Because I heard this is part of the story too. That so after practice he goes to New York, goes on Colbert, has a great time, and then has no way to get back. So he actually takes the MVP back from New York to Hanover to make it in time for the game. Is it true?
Yeah, absolutely.
Room-
Yeah, no, yeah. It was just an MVP piggyback from New York all over there. He had to stop at a couple of Tesla charging stations to, juice up the batteries, but it worked
That's
out.
when we knew we had something.
Yeah, that was just the start.
Yeah.
Coach T's not happy there.
Well, I think if you look at the play with John Mark Carey, I mean, he was a penalty. You look back on film, he grabs him. It could have been a big play for us. Obviously, Dalen threw a great ball. And I know John Mark, if he had his two arms, he'd make that catch. So he has a right to be a little bit upset here early in a game when he knows that it's going to be a tight one. Or we thought it was, but ended up playing pretty well.
This one's going to hit the turf, take a bounce, picked up by Alessi at the 50-yard line.
Guys, a theme of these Woods watch parties has been the discipline for Dartmouth's teams. A lot of times you win the penalty battle, but this is a rare one. It's been a bit of a staggered start because of a lot of penalties. We're going to wind up with 20 flags thrown in this game, 11 of them against the Big Green, which is pretty uncharacteristic. I mean, did you remember that this was a bit of a sloppy game at all? Because you look at the final score, and it's we're not going to spoil it, but pretty heavily in favor of the Big Green, as you'd expect on a series like this.
Yeah, I felt that it was a slower game. It was one of those games that lasted for a longer period of time. It would make sense with all the starting and stopping and, with the flags. But we did pass a lot. That was a big key. So I do recall it being a slower game. I don't remember getting as many flags, but that would make sense.
Yeah, I think we aired it out over 50 times or something like that, which I was never complaining about. I think all the penalties had to be on defense, right? You might have to correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember off the top of my head, but the defense tended to cheat a little bit more than the offense this year.
We got the script right here. Let's hear what's Dan got, because it might be 10-1 or.
Yeah, it's too early to pit you guys against each other. I'm not going to give you.
We need you to.
But toward the end of the game, it does get a little bit chippy because Yale they get frustrated, and I wonder, Will, how much you remember about the adjustments you made, or if your game plan was just that good that even if they maybe mix some things up later, because we're looking at a lot of punts from them early on. I mean, it seems like you guys had their number.
Yeah, well, I mean, it all comes down to the coaches and what they're able to do for us, starting on Tuesday and the hard work they put in on Sunday and Monday to make sure that we're prepped and ready. Like I said, I do recall, what Yale does, kind of what their bread and butter is. And that's because over 4 years, that was told to me every single Tuesday of that week. And so really just, the work Coach Bruno did and kind of breaking that down. Coach Dobbs obviously put together a great scheme every week, and Coach Mack on the back end. That was always huge for us. And I remember, this could speak to my original point about how good of a team we had, but you'll see in this game, Yale breaks about an 8-yard run. I think it was in the second quarter, going back towards the scoreboard. And there's McManus. There we go. We have to get a shout out there. But it was an 8-yard run. We came back to the bench, and Coach Dobbs was hot, and he was upset because we had given up that run. But the truth was, that happens sometimes, but we just had that good of a team, that good of a scheme, that he didn't expect them to gain a yard on us. So it kind of speaks to the hard work that they did, knowing what Yale was all about, and the team we had, and really putting those pieces together to stop these guys on every down.
Ryan, tell us about the family affair here. Were they in town because they knew how close you were to passing Timmy in the record books, or just a coincidence?
Fortunately, they were able to come to most games that year. So I don't think I even knew that stat was that close, or that I even had anywhere near him in any category. He had a great career and did really well. So didn't know that, wasn't on my mind, but always good to be able to go back and remind him of that. Sometimes on a weekly basis when he needs to be put in his place a little bit. So, cool to be on that list with a bunch of really talented players, including Coach Shula now, and great to have him back at Dartmouth. Stellar player back in the day with a lot of other guys on that list, and good to have him back on the coaching side of things.
Of course, Tony Reno doesn't want to hear any of that because you win 8 games.
Nice scramble there from Dale, and it might be coming back with a penalty, but we actually haven't had guests on for a Dalen Williams game yet. We're really dive into what he does so well. On this broadcast, Fox College Sports, Steve DiOssi compared him to Russell Wilson, which is about the highest compliment you can get. Ryan, you're on the offense, so I want to hear from you first, but Will, I know you've watched him play for many years. Tell us what makes Dalen Williams so good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a tremendous player. Can hurt you with his arm as well as his legs, and as Willie Mack can attest to, that's a defense's worst nightmare, is a guy that you have to watch on both his arm and his legs. So, I was very fortunate to be able to play with him and have him throw me the ball. He was probably glad that we got rid of the huddle, because after every play I would go back and tell him I was open. Why don't you throw it to me? But he was great at reading defenses, and he was just a natural back there, and could really hurt teams with his arm and his legs. And you'll see that quite a bit today.
Yeah, and speaking on Dalen Williams, I felt like we had the toughest time with Dalen Williams because we had to play him every day in practice for the most part. I mean, that was just really having to be disciplined in what we're doing, knowing he could sneak out and run and do that, at will. It really, and it doesn't speak to, I know I spoke on the guys we have in the scheme, but I didn't speak to how good our offense was and how good Dalen was and how good Ryan was, and how difficult they made it for us during practice to know that, hey, we have to either, figure this out, and stop this and kind of band together, or they're going to run all over us all practice. And then, at dinner, be talking a bunch of smack and, giving us crap for it. So Dalen Williams, made a huge difference for us, getting us prepped, getting us ready, knowing that, hey, we're playing one of the best players in the Ivy League every single day. That made a huge difference for us because he's a phenomenal athlete.
Yeah, it's easy to say the same thing on the other side of the ball. I mean, you got 10 seniors starting on defense, a few of them fifth-year guys, including Vernon Harris, who I believe started all 40 games since freshman year, which is unheard of. So going against a guy like him and Shai and my little brother Danny, although I don't like to give him credit too much, made the games almost easy, since you're going against some of the best guys in the league on a daily basis, like Willie Mack said.
Yeah, and that's a big play from Eric Wickham. That's a fifth-year guy, doesn't think he's above the team. He's going to play on punt. He is a dancing bear, which is the up back on punt, so he doesn't have as good a jump to go make a play. He runs and makes a play for us. I mean, that tells you what our team was all about. We didn't, you didn't care if you were a freshman, a fifth-year senior. You're going to get out there and do the dirty work and make plays for the team.
You said dancing bear. That's an official position you guys use?
It's an official position.
All right. Up back on punts, the dance. I learned about hawked last week when Jared Gerbino got tracked down from behind. And now dancing bear. I get the most out of this than anybody, guys. So thank you very much for that. I did want to ask about what the vibe is like right now. Is it the feel out process? Because so far we've had really 2 drives per team, 4 total punts, not a whole lot going on. No need to change anything just yet, right? Certainly not on the defensive end, Will.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, we're always trying to get a 3 and out. Right here, 2-yard gain is what we're trying to do every single time. Obviously you want a loss or a sack or, an incomplete pass, but if we're doing our jobs, you saw Whalen stepping up, making a play. I mean, for us, we're getting 3 and outs. We're getting them off the field. We're getting our offense back on the field. We're doing a great job. Now let's make a play. Let's get a turnover. Let's have a big hit. Let's, do something that's going to spark our offense.
Did you time that, knowing that your first big hit was coming as you said, let's get a big hit?
I gave it a pause so I could watch. If you didn't notice, I gave it a little pause.
He texted me. He watched this game last night. He memorized all the times. He's got it written down in front of him.
I wanted to. Dino wouldn't give me the tape, but on that play, there's a lot of underneath routes, and that's what we talked about all week, I should say, and what we watched on film, and so we know that stuff's coming.
It's a good break right there.
And this was
Did you give him the first on that?
They did 5 yards on
Willie
third.
Mack, I didn't know you guys let anyone get a first down this year.
tried not to.
That was a Chirese on the tackle. You said he had just come back, or this is extra year for him?
Yeah, he was one of the other fifth-year guys. So we were glad to have him back because, he, as you saw there, he's really great cover guy, quick breaks. There's our 9-to-5 guy. He's faking it.
This is kind of where we start to worry, Tyler. When I said earlier, I said, we've got to stay healthy and we know we're going to do well. David Caldo went down there and he had a hurt knee and we were kind of worried about it. But, I think he went back to the locker room, kind of rubbed it out, was able to work with our training staff and came back in the game. And he ends up having a couple interceptions here, which it just shows too. I mean, these guys, they get hurt. They come back in, they make plays. I mean, that's the kind of team we had. It wasn't a day off for David Caldwell. He got back in there and was able to help us out.
Running back fresh off of 233 yards.
He winds up being one of the defensive players of the game. Very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of impressive, that's a team tackle there, but you get the punt, and that is 3 tackles on that possession alone for Will McNamara. You're in the game now, it feels like.
Yeah, I have to give a shout-out to Coach Dobes here. He's always done a really solid job of kind of getting me going early when I'm antsy early in the game. If you watch, he blitzed me, I think, every single time at my senior season at the beginning of a game just to kind of get those jitters out so I can start to play. And, hey, I can't make that play if Cody Frozen doesn't hold that edge. AJ Zuda doesn't, do a great job of clogging that up. So those are those guys, too, that are ready to play now, and now it's on.
20-yard line.
Okay, speaking of nerve-wracking, Ryan, you just caught another punt. I can't imagine a more nerve-wracking job in sports. You won't notice if you screw up. If you just do this, it looks easy, but you got guys in your face. Did it take a while to get comfortable with it, or is it just a natural talent you have?
The real reason I got put back there at the start of my freshman year, I wasn't even catching punts in practice. And one day I was just running to the stretch line, and thankfully one of the punters shanked a punt kind of towards me, and I caught it in practice. And Coach Wilkerson, who was in charge of special teams at the time, said, all right, tomorrow go and catch punts. He asked me if I ever returned punts, and I lied to him and said I did in high school all the time, even though I didn't. Never returned a punt in a game in my life. But and then sophomore year was fortunate enough to be trusted enough to be put back there. But I loved it. It was organized chaos. I had a bunch of great guys blocking for me. That really sold out every time we were out there. I was a little disappointed there that I fair caught it. I guess I fair caught 2 now. The rule that I was told by Sean Eberhoff is Dartmouth punt returners just don't fair catch. And so always tried not to fair catch, tried to pass that down to the other guys. And I texted Drew Estrada last year, reminded him, don't fair catch unless it's the last resort.
And it's a smart move on your part, Ryan, because hey, if you're a freshman, you want to get on the bus, you better make it special teams.
Yeah, there's
smart move.
There's a lot of good stories out there from guys across the board that have fabricated or stretched the truth a little bit so that they could have an opportunity and end up working out for them. Far better stories than that one.
Mm-hmm. I liked it. You caught a punt at practice by accident. That's Hollywood script stuff right there.
I don't know about that. I don't think the box office would do very well that weekend.
But that's a signature of Dartmouth, though, it feels like. We get Drew Honeycutt, a wide receiver. He's holding field goals. It's Emery Thompson making tackles on kickoffs. It's something that I've noticed watching these games back, and it seems to help the culture a lot where you don't have a ton of freshman starters. It helps guys buy in, and that seems to go a long way for developing what's now become a dominant program the last really 5 years.
Yeah, I think what the coaching staff does a great job of, and you see David Caldwell getting carted off. He'll be back soon, though, which is great. What the coaching staff does a great job of is really, even when they're early in the recruiting process, seeing what a player can do well and adjusting their scheme to fit what talents he could bring to the table and maximizing those, allowing guys to, make plays when they can. If a guy's an outside runner and you see Brian Grove here catch the ball. He's an outside guy. If you give him the ball on the outside, he is, as fast as lightning, and he's going to make some serious plays. And so making the play calls, putting him in on situations when we have a package that can really highlight their talent is what they do well. And that's in all facets of the game, not just offense, defense, but as Ryan says, special teams as well.
I thought maybe it was in the family, Ryan, where you guys had more returners than just you, but were you the first one?
I was, yeah. So my older brother, Timmy, played a little bit of quarterback and receiver, so they didn't let him go back there for punts or kicks. But they had Sean Abahoff at the time, who turned out to be an All-American, and I think he holds almost all the records, if not all of them. So they did pretty well in the return game while he was there. But after me, Dane did a great job as well. And there's been a long line of great returners at Dartmouth since then.
And at what point did you realize Williams compared to Cam Scaff was going to have himself a nice day today?
Yeah, no, I think Cam Scaff, every second catch he had this year was a touchdown. I think he was the most productive tight end in college football history this year. It's great.
And then you see Dale and Williams at the tail end of that play, right up in his face, kind of giving him some, I would imagine, encouragement. Was Scaff not a big play guy before that? Because that was a spectacular play, and Dalen gets right up into him. Yeah,
no, he was a younger guy, but came in and made an impact right away, and was very productive this year. And I don't know what happened there, but he was very productive, great hands, great route runner, big body, was able to separate. He did a lot of things well, and it really showed this season. Because you look at the numbers, and it's pretty incredible.
So this is almost a strip sack. Maybe it would have been on review, but that doesn't come until...
Yeah, no, I think that was a corner blitz by one of their guys. And the funny story behind that is, so he ended up being their captain the following year, I believe, and he was a great player. He was wearing number 11. His real number was either 13 or 17. And at one point during the game, I asked him, I said, "Why are you wearing a different jersey? Are you trying to confuse us, pull one on us?" And apparently he forgot his jersey, and so the only one that the equipment manager brought was that one. So all week we're practicing for number 17, getting ready, good player, and then he wasn't even on the travel squad if you looked across the field. But that was the little story there that I got in, I think, the third quarter.
Was he embarrassed when he said that, or was he kind of like indignant, like, forgot my jersey, so what about it?
He was a little bit upset. I think he blamed it on the equipment manager, saying the equipment manager forgot my jersey. That's nothing. That's Steve Ward never would have done that. He did a great job with us. He made sure we had everything on the bus. Night before, he ran it like a military shop with his experience there, and I think the only real story, really, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, of someone forgetting something was actually back my freshman year. Andy Gay was starting at quarterback against Yale and forgot his helmet. So he was wearing a lineman helmet, face mask as his first start in college football.
Yeah, Steve did a great job of making sure the players had what they needed at all times. But he was a stickler. He made you toe the line. You had to have your stuff on the bus. There was a story. We were playing Yale my junior year, and I was fooling around the training room, joking around, excited for the game. We were about to hop on the bus, and I didn't have my bag together, and I ended up carrying my bag on the actual bus. We had two separate buses, the equipment bus and then the player bus, and I was the only guy on the team that was carrying all of his equipment on the player bus. And so that was the last time that happened. And Steve was great as far as making sure that we had what we needed, but, helping us to, look out for ourselves first, make sure we were prepared and ready.
First catch of the day, right, Ryan?
I think so.
That's 23 yards in the bank on 1st and 24. Let's see it again.
The last 3 or 4 passes, trying to get after him. He has great pocket presence. Hits McManus right.
And what a nightmare when he would catch one over the middle in practice. And I'm not saying for him, I'm saying for me. I mean, trying to catch that guy in the open space, you see him run right by a couple other players. I mean, that's where we want to get the ball to.
Yeah, it's rare that you get this many penalties on it.
I think that's the first compliment Willie Mack's ever given me, so thanks, Will.
It's because we're on the air.
Remember that, people.
It's all being recorded. It lives on YouTube forever. So,
Oh, boy.
is that a favorite route for you there, Ryan? You seem to get open over the middle a good amount, although we see you working outside the numbers as well in this game.
Yeah, no, the scheme we had going into it, we had a few games of tape watching on their defense before this, and I remember we took a few plays from some teams that had some success over the middle on them, so that was definitely a target for us, and they did a great job scheming, as always. So they put us in a great position to succeed.
It was a John Carrier, the intended target there. How'd you like the receiving group you guys?
He was definitely the speedster. We kind of had a good mixture in our receiving core. We had Victor Williams, who little jitterbug, extremely hard to cover, very shifty. Willie Mack gave me a compliment about open field, but I think it really applies to him. He was really tough to bring down, especially if he had some room. And then you got JMC, John Mark Carrier, extremely fast. You got to give him a lot of cushion, or you're going to be in trouble. Then you got younger guys, Emory Thompson, and Houston Brown, and just across the board, guys that would rotate in and make an impact right away.
You got a lot of accessories there, Ryan. It's a good look.
They're all homemade thanks to Amy McManus, my mom. We got a little carried away in the off season every once in a while. Right in the first 2 weeks of August, we started to get a little antsy for football season, and we would put in a big order for her and get everyone on the team a towel or two so that they could look good and play good, because looking good's half the battle.
Yeah, I was just going to say, look good, feel good, play good. And I put in my order actually for my towel, Ryan, I think it was sophomore year. And I didn't receive that till senior year, which was one of those things.
You got to earn it.
Hey, you want to be part of the mafia? You really got to earn it here. We're not just going to give these away. And that's another hard lesson I took. It was, the McManus mafia and what it took to get in there. And then, the lesson from Steve with the bus. So I'd say that was the number one thing I learned at Dartmouth was, you're really going to have to, put in the hours, put in the time, make the effort, maybe give me a few compliments, then I'll get you a towel. And a great catch by Scaff.
Yeah,
half of his catches today, Ryan, are touchdowns.
Yeah, there we go. It's holding true so far. But yeah, no, you got to earn your towel, Willie Mack. These aren't just handed out.
Yeah, no, but
once you're unanimous, though, we'll let you in. We'll get you a towel.
I ended up getting one senior year, which was great. Your mom did a great job with those, and you guys were wearing during the games. I figured that was a waste. I wanted to save that forever. So it's still hanging in my house. We still got the 4s up there, and with the Dartmouth logo, it looks great.
29 seconds to go in our opening quarter. The big green.
Love the production quality on the Fox College Sports broadcast. Did you guys happen to know this was a nationally televised game, or does that even matter to you?
I can't remember. I think the Harvard game was definitely on TV because it was a Friday night. Not that we want to ever talk about that game, but I think there were a few games this year, and you could always tell as a player when a game was on TV because it felt like it was twice as long with all the TV commercial breaks. There you go. Scaff's wide open there. I think that's another one of the plays we adapted just for this game, and clearly it worked out. But yeah, no, all the TV games are awesome to be on TV. You love it, but it's also, it makes you a little antsy at times because you just want to get out there and play, and you're just waiting around a lot more than you typically are. But would never complain about being on national TV.
Couple notes. First career touchdown for Scaff there, so congratulations to him. And then you saw on the broadcast, 89-16. Dartmouth is outscoring opponents in first halves this year. You pretty much outscored opponents in both halves throughout the season, the first four. But, I mean, Will, is that something that you guys notice? Like, we're getting out to big early leads here, and that kind of help propel you the rest of the way?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so for us on the defensive side of the ball, in my junior season, it seemed like we had to give up a touchdown to get going. And I don't know what it was, but we had a string where it was 5, 6, 7 games in a row we were giving up a touchdown to get started. And so we really said coming in this year, hey, we want to score first. We want to make sure that there is a goose egg on that board before we get in the end zone as on our offensive side of the ball. So it was something that we focused on heavily. And then, having great athletes on the offensive side of the ball as well is something that's going to allow you to score a bunch of points and get out to those early leads. But it was something, it was definitely something we focused on. We want to score first. We don't want, coming out there and being down going into the second quarter or halftime.
Wait for the quarter then. They want to run off 80 to 100 plays in a game.
There we go. Young Charlie Miller, number 38.
Charlie Miller got some action here so Dave's still out of the game, and he had to come into a key role. Unfortunately, Troy Donahue got hurt for us a couple games later, and Charlie Miller came in and made some great plays and ended up having a nice career for the Jaguars after that. So this kind of shows you the type of talent that we had. Charlie Miller was a junior. You had Lucas Bavaro, who's a junior. Flo was a junior. You have a couple different guys that would have started on most teams. Just showed you how deep we were, at that time in this season.
There we go, Willie Mack. Love it.
I was able to just catch him. I think I laid off the night before. I was going to have one more piece of chicken at EBA's, but I laid off. I think that's what got it done for me.
That play hadn't ended the first quarter. We'll be seeing plenty of replays here, but it will bring us to the first quarter break, and so far so good for the Big Green. It's 7-0 over Yale. Back in 2015, it's homecoming week. Stay tuned.
Make your debit card green. Big Green. Select from 16 options by visiting any Ledyard Bank location or calling 888-746-4562. Ledyard's online and mobile banking includes free personal mobile check deposit, so you can show all your Dartmouth pride on your home turf. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Hi, I'm Pierre LeBlanc, president of Engelberth Construction. For over 40 years, we've been recognized as one of the largest and most dynamic commercial construction companies in northern New England. As a premier builder and partner of Dartmouth Athletics, we have built many facilities on campus. And at Engelberth Construction, we truly believe in building relationships for life. Go Big Green.
It is week 7 of the Woods Watch Party. Dartmouth and Yale. We're back to the action here in the second quarter. It's been great so far to watch this one with Ryan McManus and Willie Mack. I learn a new nickname every week. This is great. I want to know what it's like for you guys to be able to relive these games. It's, of course, different than studying game tape and maybe getting critiqued in the film room. Are any emotions coming back to you? This was a sellout crowd, 11,000 fans. Are the nerves there? Are there spotty memories? Will, we'll start with you. What's this like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And we do this. It's not the first time that I've done this because we do this year in, year out. Say we played Yale as a sophomore, we watch them again before we prepped as a junior, and same thing with senior year. So you do get kind of those jitters. You start focusing on, hey, I made a good play here, I made a bad play there. Watching it here, 5 years out, it's just a bunch of fun, and you don't look at the plays as much anymore. At least I don't. I look back at the players I played with. I look back at the memories we made. I remember, what we did before the game, what we did after the game, and really all those little things that add up. And celebrating, singing in the locker room, and going out and having food together and hanging out under the Friends of Football tent. I mean, that's the thing that comes back to me. Celebrating a win and knowing that, hey, we worked our tails off this week and we finally got to deliver on Saturday. Those are the kinds of things that come back to me when I watch this stuff. So it's awesome. It's awesome to see, and it's awesome to commentate over too, to kind of share that memory with other people.
motivated me and gave me the.
Yeah, no, I think you hit it right in the head, Will. For me, looking back and watching all these guys that I was fortunate enough to play with, and they're all even better guys off the field, as well as being super talented on the field. So looking back, seeing them, and just being reminded of how much fun it was to be in the locker room, to be in the food court with them, to be on the bus, to travel with them, and being able to relive and bring up some of those memories. And every time I see a new player make a play, I think of a funny story or something that reminds me of them that usually happened away from football. But football was the one thing that we all had in common, and that brought us all together. And I was very fortunate. And I think that's one of the things that separates Dartmouth from a lot of other schools. Whether you ask an athlete or not an athlete on campus, what makes Dartmouth so special? Almost unanimously, it's going to be the people. And it's hard to really understand until you go there and visit and are able to interact with the types of people and the quality of people that Dartmouth brings in. But once you do, you see how special it is. And watching games like this, always had a few butterflies before the games. By fifth year, butterflies disappeared a little bit since I was an old man. But was just excited to be back on the field for me personally for this one. It was fifth year homecoming, great to be back. Missed a couple games prior to this, and watching the plays, it's fun to see Willie Mack make a ton of plays, be reminded of how good he was, really. And you could say it for Vernon, Dalen, Vic, everyone across the board. So it's special. It makes me miss it even more. You miss it as much 2 days after the season ends as you do 5 years later, if not more. So, watching this game, I just think back to what the week of practice was prior, and it was probably a lot of smack talk between the fours and number 2 at some point. So miss those days would give a lot to be able to go back and relive it, because you're around such a high quality group of guys and doing something that you all love.
Yeah, and I think when you just finish the season and you're still hurting and you still got aches and you can't shake people's hands because they're running way too many face masks. You miss the game, but not like you do now. There's a big difference there, and kind of being healthy and looking back and saying, wow, what a great time we had.
Yeah, went by too fast.
We did see some more emotion out there from the quarterback in a conversation a minute ago with Coach T. Any idea what that might have been, Ryan? I thought at first he was asking for a flag, but maybe it was a route he wanted to run differently. Let's show the replay again here.
Yeah, no, I mean, Dalen's a very competitive guy, played with a lot of passion, a lot of heart, and, he wore it on his sleeve and put everything out there each play in each game, and I think you just saw some of that passion coming out. I can't remember exactly what might have been the cause for that one, but, very passionate guy, very talented, wanted to win every play, and, put it all out there. Good combo there, Willie Mack, Eric Wickham there. It's a pretty deadly linebacker duo, if you ask me.
That's a hard hit with Wick hitting that guy. I'm surprised he didn't turn into dust.
Yeah.
Wick was a big.
Wick was like 260 this year. I don't know. What were you at senior year?
About 235.
What are we at now?
It was all in my thighs. Right now, I'm about 215.
There we go.
So,
you're almost a skill guy.
Almost a skill guy. Not quite. Not fast enough. But, Dalen had a lot of emotions for the game. He loved the game, and he held himself to a really high standard, and he did that for other players around him as well. So you're going to see some of those emotions come out, and it was, all in good fun. It was positive. It was focused on, hey, let's reach our full potential this game. Let's do the best we can. We worked on this, and let's execute. And Dalen, held people accountable as he held himself accountable. So, that's what you're going to get out of Dalen, and we kind of know that going in, that it's because this guy loves the game and he wants to succeed.
There we go. There's some of that Grove speed right there.
he was flash. I mean, this guy was so fast. If he runs it down the middle, he's going to cut a quick seam, but especially when you get the ball out to him here, I mean, there's no way this guy's, going to be able to make a play on him within 10 yards. I mean, he's going to gain a lot before he finally has to, slow things down and get caught up. And it looked like a block was being thrown for him, which was great. But a nice 10-yard gain from Grove and, just straight speed out of this guy.
Thrown outside. Victor Williams trying to set a block for Emery Thompson to get free. Not much happening there. Gain of about 2.
I got Emery Thompson listed as there. I remember him wearing number 1, I think, or 4 eventually in his career, right?
Yeah, I think he switched to 4. Yeah, no, that's the one issue with we have a senior-heavy team. All the good numbers are snatched up. So for all the talented young guys that are getting in the games, they have a little bit uglier numbers out there.
What's the story behind the number 2? It felt like all the brothers chose it once they had the chance to, right?
Yeah, no, I don't know exactly where it started. If you ask each of us, we'll probably take credit for it. I always claim my older brother was 5 for the most part growing up, and I was number 2. Our dad was 22 in college, and so it got deduced down to 2 somewhere along the line, and then older brother was in high school, and basically from then on, all of us wore number 2. For I guess almost over a decade now with the spread. So
Ryan, there's a story that I think Danny might have coined it, that he would wear number 2 to tell the guy behind him what place he was coming in. Is that true? He's making his way to the end zone.
He probably got that line from me after I told him that growing up.
And an unbelievable catch. I remember watching this from the sideline. And I remember I was talking to, I think it was Zach Slavsky, where, man, this guy's a magician catching that football. He had no business catching that football. But Dalen knows he can just throw it up there and let this guy make a play. I mean, that's just, he's getting held with one arm. He's all over him. He's grabbing the top of his head. And he's going to come down with that ball. And that's why 2 was great for us.
No, I was lucky that Dalen trusted me enough to give me some chances like that.
Wow. Talk about humility. I watched that catch probably 10 times this morning because Dino gave me the tape early, and I still don't know how you did it. And here's a very interesting play, guys, that call could have gone either way. We're going to get a lot of replays on it, but it will be Dartmouth's ball inside the 5.
Yeah, no, we were lucky that replay wasn't a thing in the Ivy League at the time. I think on a few different circumstances, but great route by Vic, got behind him, good throw by Dalen, and credit to their DB for continuing to fight throughout the play. But we're sticking with a catch on that one.
Yeah. But you saw Vic kind of came up and he was looking at the ref too. He didn't know what was.
I think if Vic
was also curious.
Guy. So if he's looking at the ref like that, that might be a little bit of an indication.
Yeah.
That it's close. But
for 42 yards and then the 4-yard run from Grove, and you're up 2 scores.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the way Grove just hits that seam. Just, bam, he's in the end zone before you know it. And Brian Grove was a guy who was, since the beginning of the season, he hurt his shoulder. And it didn't bother him one bit. He still ran low and hard. And, the goal was to score points, get in the end zone. And he did just that there.
Yeah, and you got guys like Jacob Flores, amongst others, blocking for him. And he had a stint with the Packers practice squad. And so a lot of talent up front, a lot of experience, and being able to run routes while those guys are blocking for Dalen, it makes our job easier.
And as we said, we're gonna watch this one again from a couple different angles. And I think at best he pinned it on his shoulder, and then he's down right away, stopped the play, and then when the DB pulls it off him. But yeah, did it feel like a game-changing play at the time, guys, or did you feel like you pretty much were rolling no matter what? Because if that goes Yale's way, then it's a much different story, I think, anyway.
Yeah. No, I think you're exactly right. It's a completely different game, and we caught a couple breaks in this game. I think you always do in every win. Unfortunately for me, I was on the bench talking about a defense we were going to run, so I don't remember the play at all. But, watching it now, it did end up being a huge play for us. And it looked like Vic did catch the ball, which feels good, knowing that we'd be able to keep it and hand it off and score, go up 14.
to the 29-yard line.
There we go. I don't know who it was because they celebrated right after the screen so fast, but I always loved watching kickoff guys run down the field because a lot of them had a couple screws loose, and they took it serious. They loved it, and they flew down the field, and they made a lot of big plays for us. All 5 years for me. I think our special teams focus on it quite a bit during practice and during preseason, and it really shows during games. Especially when the defense is out there for field goal or extra point block. They just went down the field and scored on us, and our defense is still giving everything they have on an extra point block, and we were very, very good at that, and it really helped out throughout the season and over the course of our careers there.
Yeah, I mean, Will Constant's a name that sticks out for me. I mean, you talk about a guy with a head of steam. That's when I stepped off kickoff, I'd be on the sideline. I'm watching a guy. I'm keying him. I'm seeing what he's going to do, and it looked like he was in on the action there.
I'll be the one who says Lucas Bavaro on the coverage for Dartmouth.
Yep.
You're supposed to mention any Bavaro connections here in this game.
Well,
Look at Cody Fuller.
Caldwell's back. There we go.
Caldwell's back in the game, which, it's a sigh of relief when you see a guy who you thought was hurt come back in the game, be flying around like he is, especially because he was a leader on our defense. He was an experienced guy. He watched a ton of film, was making sure everyone knew what they were doing. So having him back there as Coach Dove would call him the bus driver was huge for us. There he goes covering, making a play.
I got intel on who made that special teams tackle and ran off yelling. That was Luke Bavaro, and according to the Fox broadcast, his famous dad was in the building as well, so a little extra energy there, I guess.
Oh, yeah, and he was another, great athlete, junior for us, and came in on select plays because he's behind Frankie Hernandez, who was, an incredible player as well. So it just showed you, again, the type of talent we had.
That was one of the things coming to Dartmouth that I thought was even more special. There were so many guys that came from all over the country and had different shapes and sizes. And Frankie's an example of a guy that was a few inches shorter than probably every other nickelback in college football, but played extremely hard, was a very good player for us, made a huge impact every time he was out there. He was the heat-seeking missile almost on every single play, especially if it was a bubble screen. And being able to play with those guys and see them, you see them in the locker room, you're meeting them for the first time. Everyone's feeling each other out, don't know what to expect. Everyone's kind of giving everyone the eye test, but at a place like Dartmouth, it's really hard to have the eye test be accurate. Some of the smaller guys come in and make really big impacts.
Yeah, and you could see Troy Donahue with the play there and coming off limping and just got right back into it. He was another huge player for us, an experienced guy, fifth-year senior, battled with injury, tore his ACL and came back and was an awesome player for us too. Vernon Harris here, as you could see, was incredible, had a stint with the Chiefs, did really well there. When you can take a corner and he's going to cover his man, you can X off a whole half of the field, and that's what we were able to do with Vernon Harris.
Every once in a while, even the best get called, but
yeah, they got him a tough pass interference call there. Looked like maybe both guys were going to the ground, but that's going to keep the drive alive, and Stevens doesn't seem to like it.
Yeah, Coach T, if he doesn't like it, he's going to let you know. And the great thing about Coach T, though, is he's fair. And he knows it's based off what he sees. And he, no excuses. It's Vernon came back and argued that. Coach T would say, hey, let's get back in there and make a play. But he's going to make sure that he stands up for his guys.
This is by far their most successful drive on you guys, Will. How are you guys doing defensive rotations at this point? Are you out there the entire time? I know the defensive line likes to mix and match, but is it pretty much every play for a linebacker like you?
Yeah, it is, and that just depends on the position. We had different packages. You'd have a nickel out there. Frankie or Lucas would be there. You had Flo come in. Will Constant would come in as a rush end from time to time. You'd switch off between, having, 4 linebackers to 3 to 2 kind of based on, where we feel Yale's going to go with the ball. But right now it's just they made a couple plays. We've had a couple tough penalties. They're driving on us a little bit. And we know we got to come up and make a stop. But it really just depends, to answer your question, on, what position you're playing, what package we're running, and where we feel we're going to be most successful.
My worst question so far in the Woods Watch Party is asking Matt Caskey if he ever got taken out of the game. Obviously not. But he played it off like it was a totally legitimate question, so I'm a big Matt Caskey fan now.
I'm a big Matt Caskey fan, too. I remember when he first came to campus and we saw him. He was big teddy bear-looking kid, and, man, he was talented and, clearly still playing. Very, very good player. I'm right behind you in the Caskey fan club.
Yeah, Matt Caskey is a guy who's a personality bigger than him, which is tough to do when you're 300 pounds. But, what an incredible kid. He came in, fit right in right away, and was able to play a little bit, which was great. I remember going against him in practice and saying, hey, he's going to be really good. I just kind of knew the raw talent he had. I knew the drive he had to be good. And here's David Caldwell with great. This is an exciting guy right here, and an emotional guy. And you kind of saw the emotion from Daniel on the offensive side of the ball. We had the same thing on defense. And you can see Dave get excited. He's healthy now. He's ready to play, and we're coming off the field.
Did you ever find out what the obviously abundance of caution getting him off on the cart, but to see a guy who apparently couldn't walk to the locker room make a play like this, that's quite a turnaround. It's impressive.
Well, he said it was all precautionary. He's just listening to the trainers and doing what a good player does. Mike DeRozier gave him, a little bit of some guidance on what's the best move, and he's going to follow that because he wants to get back out there with the team. At least that's his story. I don't know if it had to do with the pain or anything like that, but that's good to see him back out there nonetheless.
I love the hit. Don't understand the throw.
No, he's a big part of the defense, especially this year. And there are some rumors out there how severe it was, if he was faking it, or what the real diagnosis was. But we're always glad when 4-1's back on the field.
Ryan, I thought you dropped that ball. You dropped that ball. That was incredible. Incredible stuff.
No, thanks, Will. I had my fair share of drops, but thankfully this one fell in.
Yeah.
Great back shoulder by Dalen. Practiced it quite a bit. I don't know if it was supposed to be a back shoulder or not, but probably to do something with the poor rap me not actually beating the guy deep, so he had to do what he had to do there.
Yeah, and you could see how upset the corner was.
Yeah. So right now you catch this ball and you're thinking, wow, I just tied my older brother for all-time receptions. That's what's going through your head?
Yeah, no. Everyone always asks, did you know? I didn't, and I don't know if it's the same for you, Will, but for me, during the game, and especially during a play, if I had the ball or was blocking someone for, Grove or Bramble or Vic, it was basically silent for me. So I never heard the announcers. I never heard really the crowd. It was really play call and then silence after that.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
They didn't say that's Will's third career pick six, an all-time record, and it didn't register with you. I don't know if they had that advanced stat back in the day.
You know what? Don't underestimate the Dartmouth guys. They had the stat. I bet they were announcing it, but it did not. No, it didn't come to mind for me. I was just lucky enough to be able to make a play, and it's all about trying to focus on what the team's doing, what the score is, and I think that's the main thing I'm looking at is, okay, what's the down and distance, how much time's on the clock. Those types of situational things are big for me. And this is why we had to do running back by committee, because we had so many good backs. Kyle Bramble's a senior. Him and Grove came in together. Just two outstanding backs. And you have Ryder Stone, who's in there, making plays as well. So you couldn't have one key back. You had to key them all. They're all making plays. And if one scores, the other one's going to come back and do the same thing. And, what a phenomenal career Kyle Bramble had. He's a guy who fought back from injury a couple of different times. And to score right there is really cool to see.
Yeah, Willie Mack claims he didn't hear the announcer, but he came right off the field after every touchdown and compared it to how many I had. And he certainly had a couple of years where he either had the same amount or more touchdowns than I did. So
I think that might have been the joke, right? There was a year you sat out and then I had one, or yeah.
Yeah, there was something. I certainly wasn't breaking any stats this season.
We had some fun with it.
But it's fun when you're on offense and your defense is putting up points for you pretty consistently throughout the season. Correct me if I'm wrong, Will or Tyler, fact check me on this, but I believe we were the first or second in the nation in scoring defense, and didn't give up a lot of points, but also put up a lot of points from the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah. This is really the beginning of an incredibly dominant era of Dartmouth defense that continued all the way to the last season they played, which was a championship season. And it's been a defense and running game formula lately. And watching these games, it really feels like it started with the 2015 defense, really everything coming together.
Well, I appreciate the credit, but well before that, it's guys like Bronson Green and Mike Runger and Teddy Reed and all these great players who were hard-nosed guys. Garrett Wymore. We had a defense. We had a linebacking core that. I don't know if we broke 400 on, how much poundage we had. I mean, it was a thinner group of guys, but they played really hard. And they kind of established that hard-nosed, type play. It was, Garrett Wagner, who made a big difference for us, and Mike Banasiski, and guys who really loved the game and really set the tone for us. To help us grow into our potential and what it was in 2015. But, there's a lot of foundation that needed to be laid. There's a lot of guys who, worked really hard and started a belief system that, hey, we're going to win here at Dartmouth. And we were the product of those guys.
You can turn the tide, especially with 5.5 minutes left in the.
So at this stage in the game, Yale's been maybe close to field goal range, but they were stopped on that 4th and 5. The offense is clicking. Is this a stage where you need to convince yourself that it's that 0-0 game? You need to keep your adrenaline up even though you're dominating? Do the coaches need to stay on you? Or as seniors, and we'll go to you, Ryan, first, do you kind of already have that mentality knowing that Yale's going to make a game out of this, or at least that's what you expect?
Yeah, no, we always expect a tough fight, and that's one of the things about the Ivy League that's special is you can never let up because anyone can beat anyone on any given day. And also, every Ivy League game is the equivalent of a playoff game since all of them matter equally. So every win is huge. It matters towards a championship, and you can never let off the gas. And that was something that we had learned early on, and especially the year prior, we were on the flip side of this. I think it was 21-0 or 21-7 as we got pretty late in that game, and so. We knew it was going to be a battle. We knew they had a high-power offense that could put up a lot of points. We had to stick with it and not let off the gas at all. You never count Willie Mack, A.J. Zuda, Cody Fulton, or David Caldwell and that crew, Vernon. Those guys certainly are letting off the gas. And so, on the offensive side of the ball, we didn't want to either.
Yeah, you can see the effect that
have a pretty special Woods Watch Party treat coming up here after the punt. And by the way, a few times we've seen Will McNamara directly get the ball into Ryan McManus's hands today. A third down tackle leading to a punt. There's more cohesion there than you would think based off the Zoom chat so far, guys. But a lot of famous Dartmouth NFLers, maybe more than you would think. And we're going to step aside here on our end. Jay Fiedler has an interview. Let's tune in to hear about his Dartmouth career and his success in the NFL.
Dartmouth football history, standing by with Katie.
Eric, thank you very much. I'm down here with a former Dartmouth quarterback and NFL quarterback, Jay Fiedler. Jay, homecoming is always great. It's nice to come back to your alma mater, especially when they've got a 21-0 lead. How does it feel to be back?
Absolutely. It's great to be back on campus here, see a capacity crowd, beautiful weather up here. Hanover's the place to be this weekend.
So how did your time here at Dartmouth playing for the Big Green prepare you for your 10-year career in the NFL?
Well, the Ivy League is such a competitive league, and I think we get knocked for the level of play, but at the top level there are some great players across the league, and being able to compete week in and week out at a high level, got me ready for the next level, and it took a little while once I got up there to get recognized, to get my opportunities, but finally down in Miami and to be able to become the starting quarterback down there was tremendous.
Now, college football can prepare you for a lot of things, but filling in after Dan Marino and succeeding him in 2000 in Miami must have been such a daunting task. Were you anxious or nervous about that at all?
No, I wasn't nervous. It was my first opportunity to start, so that was a great opportunity for me there. But I just knew that I just needed to go out and play the game the way I learned how to play, and I knew how to play, and I knew if I could go out and win games, no matter how I did it, I wasn't going to do it the same way Dan Marino did. But we won a lot of games when I was there, and I think everyone in Miami really appreciated it.
All right, Jay, thank you so much.
You got it,
guys.
Good to have Jay Fiedler back. Well,
that's a great interview for two reasons, guys. One, it helped us gloss over the fumble that gives Yale the ball in good field position. And two, awesome question, I thought, about him filling in for Dan Marino after he retired in Miami. And I wonder, Will, I'll ask you first, and then Ryan, do you happen to remember what guys graduated and opened up a spot for the linebacking core to help you step in? And what was it like filling those shoes, Will?
Yeah, absolutely. My freshman year was I was first introduced to Bronson Green, who I brought up a little bit earlier. Hard-nosed guy from California, really worked his tail off, a guy who's always in the film room, being perfect. And the thing that stuck out to me from Bronson Green was his fundamentals and just how sound they were. And, the difference he'd make, and a great play by Vernon here, the difference he'd make in his preparation and his focus on the little things. And so stepping into his shoes, I knew that it was going to be tough to follow that. And so it helped me a lot to really focus on little things. And Coach Doge would tell us all the time, you really are successful when you realize that the little things are actually the big things. And Bronson Green defines that to a T. And so, stepping in his shoes, I knew it was going to be tough shoes to fill. But he helped me a lot in building my football foundation, helping me to understand film and really break down an offense, and then teach my teammates and communicate with each other so we could work as one unit. And luckily for me, we were able to, do a great job just as he did and be part of an awesome defense just as he was. So, that's the guy that sticks out to me, and it was always tough shoes to fill, but, he was a great teacher and mentor to me.
Yeah, no, I think you hit right on the head. For me, I was fortunate to get some playing time as a freshman, only due because my older brother, who was also playing receiver at the time, got injured prior to that. So, since he was out, I was given a chance to get in there and, was able to play alongside Garrett Babb, was another receiver at the time. And then Bo Patterson, who was actually a freshman as well, and Kirby Schoenthaler, who was also a freshman. Ended up starting the remainder of the season since we had a bunch of guys get banged up. But Mike Riley was in there as well. Very talented guy, hardworking, very passionate about the game. But a long list of guys that were hardworking, didn't complain about not getting the ball thrown their way, would lay their bodies down the line to block for anyone else on the field that was carrying the ball at the time. And that was really established my freshman year. With Coach Darrell Jackson was the receivers coach at the time, and we spent a lot of time on blocking and not being selfish players, and that kind of continued all the way through. I think my freshman year, we had 5 or 6 receivers recruited in our class because there was quite a big gap of guys missing or hurt. And I think almost every single one of us, if not all of us, played quarterback in high school and had never played receiver. So it was a transition there. It was, hats off to Coach T and the rest of the staff for being able to scout some talent, because we had a lot of talent in our room, and being able to see how they could switch positions or put them in a position to help the team. And that kind of selflessness carried out throughout the 4 years. And as you've seen over the years, there's been a great list of receivers that have come out of Dartmouth, especially recently.
Watch this. Right up the middle, breaks that first line.
Were you recruited at all as a quarterback, Ryan? What was the process for you in getting interest from college?
Yeah, no, I had some interest. Not a whole lot of schools were coming at me for quarterbacks, since I was probably a little bit shy of 5'10" at the time, and as a senior in high school, luckily kept growing a little bit. Dartmouth said, if you want to play quarterback, we'll certainly give you the option. As it came time to make a decision, as I was making a couple official visits, all I really cared about was being able to play, being able to make a difference and help my team. Ended up deciding that, maybe receiver was a better fit for me and fill the gap that the team had at the time. So I was very fortunate. If you probably would have asked senior year high school Ryan McManus if he was going to play quarterback in college, he probably would have said yes. But thankfully, we didn't have to have me play, because we had a guy like Dan Williams come in. I probably would have sat the bench anyways. So, fortunate to be on the receiving end of a talented guy like him throwing me the ball and leading the offense.
Yale and push Dartmouth up 5 yards.
Will, watching you play linebacker, it feels like you've been playing that position since age 4. Was there ever any other positions in your playing career?
Yeah, it was actually age 5 that I switched over. But I played a lot of fullback. I did some quarterbacking in 7th grade. And when I came to high school, I had the great opportunity to, if I played defense, play as a sophomore on varsity, and my brother was a senior at the time. And, the opportunity to play with him and be part of, a defense at St. Rita. I'm going to be able to shout out to my high school here, who was known for having great defenses, defense and running game. It's kind of similar to what you're seeing with Dartmouth a little bit here. That was a great opportunity that I couldn't pass up. And I decided, hey, I want to be on defense because I want to be able to play. And like Ryan said, it's kind of just fitting the position that's open, then going out and doing the best you can to be, solid at that spot. And, playing with him was just such a joy. It was incredible. And that's when I really started to love defense. I loved the way that, 11 really had to work as one, or else the offense is going to pick your weakest link. And, that's something that, when I was able to, move over to middle linebacker from kind of that outside spot I played my sophomore year, I really, grew to love defense and the camaraderie that it created with the guys around me. So, ever since sophomore year of high school, I was a defensive guy and I played a little special teams, but that's pretty much it.
He got a few interceptions and started to get a little cocky. Was asking to be put on the hands team at one point.
Yeah, my dad blessed me with hands that can catch, and it's what it's all about, Ryan. Hopefully, I've earned your respect at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. In more ways than one.
Yeah, good. And I definitely wanted to get on the hands team a little bit, mainly. But what they used me for, Tyler, is I wasn't the guy who'd field the ball. I would just run with a head of steam and try to take somebody out. So it wasn't. They'd call me the hands guy, but it could have been a different team based on what I was doing. You could have titled it something else.
You need a bruiser on that onside kick recovery team. I get that.
Yeah, exactly right.
And is this the McManus clan again?
It is. It must have been tough to find some sponsors for this game that they had to show those guys. EBA's wasn't willing to put up enough cash at the time to get a commercial spot, so I guess they had to settle for that.
Ryan, over 100 yards in the first half. I wish you were on my fantasy team back then.
Well, yeah. I don't think many came in the second half, so you'd have to be satisfied with those numbers.
I would be. That's a great Sunday.
You guys got a Dartmouth football league for fantasy?
Yeah, and just kind of bring that up too. I stay connected with all the Dartmouth football guys, and that's the main way we do it is fantasy football. We're able to kind of be our own coach.
Come on, Willie Mack, make that catch.
Did I drop it? See, I was trying to talk over that, acting like I didn't see it.
Very smart move. Because I was going to call you on this one. I thought this was going to be pick six number 4. Let's watch.
With 15 total tackles.
Thrown right underneath.
I don't think it hit your hands enough times.
Yeah, this is one of those, and I was lucky enough. It seemed like every time the ball popped up in the air, my eye caught it, and I was able to find it. I just couldn't find this one, and unfortunately, because I had nothing but sideline, hash sideline to the end zone, and I'm going to do a little nervous scratch of the head because I should have had that one. But you wish you had back.
But I'd love to hear more about the connections you still have with players. And did you say there's a fantasy league going on?
Fantasy league going on. We were able to get together and hang out a little bit this past year. Over fantasy football, played a little golf. Just gives us a way to stay in touch. And Coach T, told us, he said, hey, you guys got to try to get together at least once a year. And we plan that trip to hang out at least once a year. And there's about 12, 13 of us, depending on anyone can come. If they can't make it that year, that's fine. But in the day-to-day, fantasy football during the season keeps us together. We all have that, like I said, the opportunity to run our own teams and talk smack. And, I'm smarter than you and you're smarter than him. And it keeps us together. And I think we'd stay together anyways. It's just kind of an excuse to joke around.
Well, here's the thing.
We're talking auction league, snake drafts. What are we?
We're talking no PPR, keeper,
dynasty. Nice.
Yeah, and then we have no auction, the waiver wire. We have, there's a couple things that are taken to the commissioner as far as how we should run the league. There's some things up for debate, but right now it's a ton of fun.
Who is the commissioner?
Jack Sheehy's the commissioner, and he does a solid job dealing with all our complaints because as soon as the team loses, then they're all upset and they think the league should be run differently. Great play by Eric Wickham there. Look at that. Wow. Or was that Vernon?
That was Vernon.
With the pass breakup, but let's check the call.
Very late flag.
Man, Vernon got pretty unlucky with some calls, I think, over his 4 years. He was big and strong, and sometimes the refs gave it to the receivers when he just had great coverage.
Looks like you caught a break here, though.
Getting whistled for the personal foul.
You do good things. You make a 4th and 10.
First time ever.
I think this is the personal foul on Cannon from Yale there. Not really sure. But
I'd get upset too if Cody Fullerton was on me all day, Jack. I don't blame the guy.
They do mention, as this game continues to tilt in Dartmouth's favor, some frustration from Yale. I think there may be a few roughing the passer penalties. We'll have to take a look on that later. But I don't know how you can fault any team in an Ivy League matchup for continuing to not run the score up, but play their game, keep dominating, and make a statement to the league, which you guys needed to do, and you certainly were doing in this one.
Yeah, I mean, the rivalries run deep, and it's been, hundreds of years that these schools have been around, and the competitive nature of it, keeps everyone in check and keeps everyone trying to, give their best every game, every Saturday, no matter the opponent. And I think since every Ivy League game matters so much in terms of the Ivy League championship, everyone's a little hesitant to let off the gas at all throughout the season. And you only get 10 games, so you got to make all 10 count. You got to make every minute of those 10 games count because you don't get an 11th.
Yeah, and a lot of the coaches in the Ivy League are guys that have been there for a long time. They know the game, they know the league, and when players come up, they're recruiting the same guys. So it's a rivalry amongst all 8 teams that starts 4 years prior, or it might start even beyond that. And so, in McManus' situation, it started, a long time ago for Danny. It might have started 8 years ago. So they know that. So you want to come and win. And you want to, show them that you'd have won no matter what. And it wasn't a call that gave you the win, and it wasn't a break that you got. But you really gave it to them, and you won the entire day.
Yale spreading the field again, trying to get one-on-one matchups.
Roberts
I can't remember what happens at the end of this half.
I think they kicked.
Goal maybe.
Run a strict no spoiler policy, at least as far as I go. So we'll find out.
We're starting to get all the flags now.
Exactly. You can tell us, Will, about the importance, perhaps, of holding them to a field goal here, because if Yale just needs something on the board, obviously, but a touchdown would probably swing the tide heading into the locker room.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to give them any momentum going into half, and that's key for us. And we had a bend but don't break mentality, and we kind of, it looks like we got lucky here with a penalty, which ultimately forced the field goal. But yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, 21-7 versus 21-3 is a completely different ballgame.
Yeah, the defense did a phenomenal job of that all season long. Probably most visible in the Harvard game when they stopped Harvard 5 times on the 1-inch line. As an offense, that's always great to have those guys where, even if they're marching down the field, that they're going to have to fight extremely hard to get 7 there instead of 3. And they did a phenomenal job of that all season long, which took the pressure off of us as offensive guys.
So, yeah, it winds up being a holding penalty on the same guy who committed the personal foul, and it will be a field goal here from 35 yards out. And we'll let the suspense build for you watching at home.
Wonder what they're going to do. Are they going to make it, or?
That was good penetration there. I think a couple of guys were close.
Usually Jeremiah Duche is in there with a blocker too. After the kickoff, Dartmouth takes a knee. And to the magic of video editing, we've reached halftime. So far, so good for the Big Green through 2 quarters. Plenty more to come on the Woods Watch Party. Stay tuned.
There are lots of things that are true about each of us, but sometimes we are held back from being ourselves. Sometimes we are told we can't do a certain thing because we're a boy or a girl, but it's okay to be who we are. Girls can be messy and boys can be neat. Girls can be fast and boys can be creative. It's good for both boys and girls to talk about their feelings and to clean up their messes. It's okay for all of us to be scared, brave, loud, quiet, gentle, and smart, and it's always good to ask for help when we need it. We get to decide who we want to be and how we want to spend our time. All that matters is we are genuine and no one is getting hurt. I'll support you in being yourself, and I hope that you'll support me.
Domino's is serious about food safety. That's why your pizza stays untouched after baking at 450 degrees. And now that every delivery is contactless, you can safely mix and match any 2 or more for just $5.99 each when you sit around the table, even if it's not the same table.
We are set for the second half. It's homecoming 2015, Dartmouth against Yale. And, of course, the Big Green off to a great start, firing at all cylinders so far. And we're so happy to have Ryan McManus and Will McNamara with us. Thanks again, guys, for joining us. Well, you just got out of the locker room here 5 years ago. I'm sure you don't have specific memories of what was said, but I always like to get a general idea of your memories from the locker room, or what the importance of these conversations are. If you have any good stories from maybe some game-changing adjustments at halftime as the third quarter is underway. Will, we can start with you.
Yeah, I mean, nothing really comes, right to mind, but I do remember every single halftime, every single time we'd come to the bench, we'd have Coach Dobes right in there and say, all right, what are you seeing out there? And it was just, it was a focus and say, hey, we're coming together here. Whatever we're doing wrong, that's already happened. We want to try to perfect that in the future. And we are doing a great job up to this point. We had a couple of things that we wanted to tighten up, but, it's really sitting around. He's got the clipboard. We're bringing the linebackers together in the middle. We have the DBs on the other end, and then the defensive linemen are kind of sitting next to us, all kind of rallying and saying, hey, what are you seeing out there? What are we doing to make changes? And if we're doing great stuff, let's continue doing that. And, be aware of how they're going to make their changes in the second half as well. So really coming out of the locker room, in this particular game, it was, let's keep doing what we're doing. Let's focus on executing, and really make a difference for those guys around you and help them make plays. We continue to win this football game. I don't have a story now. When I'm thinking back here, as I'm talking, I'm thinking you're trying to think of some plays, some half times where, we had some great speeches and really turned the corner. I think it was very much, we were so much on the same page that we knew what we wanted to do, and it was all about just going out there and doing it and what's going to give us the best opportunity to do so.
No, I'm in the same boat. I was trying to think of a funny story about halftime or something, but really one thing that, every single halftime for us, whether we were up or down, it seemed like it was all business. Everyone's making adjustments, talking about what they're seeing out there. In this game particularly, I don't remember specifics, but, I do remember being able to wander throughout the locker room towards the defensive side of the ball and listen in and talk to those guys. Cause, when you're on the field, those guys are on the sidelines and vice versa. So, there we go, JMC. That's a big catch for us right there. But being able to listen in and talk to them was always something that I really enjoyed during halftime, because not something that we were able to do during the game, but listen in during halftime, talk to those guys, tell them to keep making plays, keep doing their thing, because they're really helping us out there.
Yeah, and I think one thing to add to that too is the focus on having fun with each other. We had a chant that would game time's what, and we'd answer party time. I mean, it was us to remember, like, hey, we're out there to have a good time. X's and O's are good, but if you don't play loose, you're not going to be able to execute on these. So just staying loose, having those types of conversations were big for us, during those 15 minutes at halftime.
Anytime we've seen Dartmouth, and it's obviously his dream.
Yeah, the movie Friday Night Lights came out when I was a kid, and they're in the championship game at halftime, and they're losing big, so the quiet defensive lineman gets up, gives a rousing speech, and they score like 10 touchdowns in a row. So I'm thinking, that's how every single football game is decided. Perfect. But no, obviously it's mostly technical, and you guys don't need many adjustments here. And it is fun to talk with the coordinators, Coach Dobes and Coach Staff, the last couple of years about kind of, as you mentioned a little bit, Will, adjusting for how they're going to change things up. So that's kind of the game within the game, which is always fun to hear about.
Yeah, it's a chess match out there, and they know that. They know they're going to bring their best. They've been watching film too. And so just being ready for that, being prepared, knowing that, we have packages to go to, we have guys that can play. Let's put ourselves in great situations to make plays.
Somebody will give him a chance. I have no doubt someone will give him a chance.
What about pregame speech, really, Mac? What's your favorite across the 4 years?
The pregame I would get excited about was, Coach Stevens would do a great job of, firing guys up actually in Florin 105. And being able to be there with the entire team. We're sitting there. We just kind of watched a video. It's a compilation of guys hitting, other teammates. Other teams and making big plays on offense. And then the type of speech he would give, and the story of the journey of we're going to travel to New York and we're going to play Columbia. We're going to Boston and we're going to make a difference. I mean, the excitement that would generate in me is what made the difference, because that's when it all started. You're right before the game. You better be ready to go, or else you're never going to be ready to go. So for me, it was all of what Coach T did in 105, and kind of watching that video with the entire team and turning the lights out and getting ready to go. And that's what sticks out to me. Do you have one, Ryan, that you kind of go to, or something that got you hyped up?
I was hoping you would spark some memories. I don't know if you were there for it or not. It might have been my freshman year, but I think it was before the Columbia homecoming game, which is why I thought of it. They brought out a Columbia helmet, and I think Coach Wilk also brought a baseball bat. It went to town, and ear pads were exploding, and that was pretty far from my pregame speeches in high school. So I was that was one that stuck out to me for sure.
Ivy League championship is running and riding on those.
You're going to
What
wind
about
up.
Rituals?
He is a superior
Oh,
athlete.
go ahead, Ryan. Sorry.
I was going to ask Willie Mack I feel like I remember you doing something a little unique for pregame rituals. If I'm remembering correctly.
We did, yeah. We had a couple rituals. Coach Dobes was big on, obviously getting the pads before games, before practice.
No, he's big on breakfast too.
He's big on breakfast. He's big on rituals before games in the sense that, he wanted to make sure we were ready to go. We were going to do the same thing every game and get ready, get the pads going, hit each other. But then we did have a, right before we'd run out there, on defense as a unit and then go back in the locker room. Eventually, we'd kind of circle up and be chatting each other up as we're kind of circling and walking and, getting each other fired up. Ryan, you got mugged here. What's going on?
I don't know. I got to pay the rest
for that
before the games. I learned that too late.
Yeah. But we circled up and we were able to kind of chat and really kind of bring the brotherhood together of what the linebacking core was and get excited. And then, we'd bring it in. He'd, kind of tell us, hey, this is what we live for. This is what we practice for. Go out and have fun and go from there. So that was a ritual we did all the time, which was exciting and something I miss a lot.
Let's see how they start the second half. They go to the run.
Tyler, I think I cut you off. Were you going to ask something earlier?
I was going to set you up for complaining about that pass interference call. You already got it. You're good to go. But since
I got my complaint out of the way that day, I think.
Will, you're kind of talking about that linebacker legacy almost, and I wasn't lucky enough to watch you guys. I started covering when the ESPN Plus package came along a couple of years ago. And just seeing guys like Jack Traynor and Jake Moen, David Emanuels, do you guys watch the current team at all and just kind of marvel at how they've been able to follow in your footsteps and continue the success?
Oh, absolutely. I wasn't shocked that Jack Traynor did what he did for Dartmouth. He was, as soon as he came in the door, and you could tell, the type of football IQ that he had. This guy was picking stuff up super fast. And then the skill to go out there and do it and execute on it. When I watched Jack Traynor his senior year last season, he was, near perfect with a lot of reads. Never really took a misstep. As far as, perfect goes for us as players, but, it was awesome to watch him lead that team and, play as well as he did. It was incredible. It was unfortunate to see him lose to Cornell, but they were able to finish it out. And, I love watching those guys. I love, looking back at when they came in as freshmen and did the player they became. And, there was no doubt that he was going to be an outstanding player for Dartmouth. And it's great to see that legacy carry on.
Try to play catch up. It limits what they're going to be allowed to do. But in this situation, they've put a decent amount of pressure on Roberts.
Willie Max, did you get hurt in this game? Didn't you get banged up at one point in the season? Was it before this game? No.
I hurt my quad back in the Georgetown game, but I was good. I think we both got hurt in that game.
Yeah.
But luckily we were able to get it done the next week.
We've noticed him on a couple of occasions today. One, when he took a nasty.
So you weren't out there the entire time? I was wondering because we had that early drive where he wound up with 3 tackles over the course of 5-6 plays. And the final number is a team leading 7 tackles. Very impressive. But you're on pace for what felt like a dozen.
Yeah, I played the whole game, this one, and I felt fine. I think they went to more of a passing attack, kind of later in the game. But, yeah, it was fun. That's what the defense is made for, is to funnel a lot of things to me. This is one of my favorite plays the entire season, when you just get a gang tackle like that of a bunch of guys teaming up. But that's what we had. Zach Slavsky was always making plays in the defensive line. But, yeah, it was fun to get off to a good start. I was lucky to stay healthy this game and get a victory here.
That's 2 linebackers drawing straws for who gets to hit that running back.
So what I wonder about is I have the luxury of stepping back and just looking at Dartmouth history without being in it like you guys. And you look at the banners and you say, okay, 2015, it broke a drought that they hadn't won an Ivy League title since 1996. Was that at all a point of motivation for you guys? The coaches bring it up? Because as we've discussed, this team seemed like it was destined to finally break that streak. Or Ryan, I'll ask you first, was that just you want to win a championship no matter what? Who cares how long it's been?
Number 9 on the
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, our time was certainly due, and I think, a couple seasons prior, the win-loss record probably didn't show it, but there were so many games in those 2 years leading up to this season that were decided by, a touchdown or less, or in a lot of cases a field goal or less. And, if we get a couple of those field goals, a few more bounces each of those times, I think there could have been a few years prior to the 2015 banner up there. But that's the way football goes, and we knew that we had a lot of talent coming back this year. We knew we had the pieces to the puzzle to make it happen, and we just needed to, do what we could do, play smart, play our game, stay healthy, and we knew we'd have a really good chance at making something special happen.
Yeah, it was an uncharacteristic bad pass by Morgan Roberts. That was down around.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think you could see here some of these underneath routes that they're throwing. For me, it was always about, being a part of this team and really, celebrating with one another and having a great time. And you can see Ryan back there. We'll see what he does here. Hopefully we can get a little bit of a return. No, yeah.
I was a fan of punt safe for not letting up a fourth down convert into a first down for the bad guys, but not so much for the blocking. As you can see, it was great to have Willie Mack out there for once on a punt return, but no,
I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't do it, but
not so much spying the guy he's supposed to block. So I think Coach Mack at some point in his coaching career, maybe it was as a player, had got burned once or twice, and since then has been pretty scarred, and leaves his playmakers on the field whenever he can for breakers.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't do too much blocking out there, but we were there for.
You look good. That's all that mattered. You were intimidated.
Bramble ducked out of the way.
There's a Bramble run for you. Catch and run. Not gonna let the first guy bring him down.
And you could see how tough he is, in the way he played. I mean, he's scratching and clawing for that extra yard, and he unfortunately takes a big hit for it. But he was always that guy. It's tough when they got your legs held down and the guy's coming, but he's up for the challenge. And then he just turns around and does that. And that's the type of team we had. That's why you got to play all three running backs, because any one of them could break at any moment. But a great run by Bramble there.
He's got to get the piano off his back.
In fairness, that was his third touch in a row. 3 straight plays to him, so I don't know. Run half the field.
No, that was a great run, great play. But if he was here, I would have said it to his face.
I believe it.
Hopefully we'll see it.
Off the field, and Grove comes in, and he is stopped just in.
There he is getting there.
He'd say it about himself, as you can see there.
Look at that yardage difference, 453 yards.
It's funny to see the guys. Yeah, it's funny to see the guys who lost all the weight after football to see them back in the pads. With all the muscles and the weight that came with the game.
7 yards a game in total offense. Second down.
Do you guys do anything to stay active, like intramural leagues or anything like that, or is it just living regular life?
Yeah, for me, I'm in Boston now, and there's quite a few intramural leagues, and there's a pretty big Dartmouth contingency here. So, and a lot of Dartmouth football guys from my class and the classes below me. So we're able to get together, whether it's anything from beach volleyball to softball, and obviously a lot of us belong to the same gym, so we'll see each other there and hold each other accountable. So, always good to stay active, and I think that's something that Coach T promoted quite well, especially amongst the bigger guys, having the competition, which I believe is still going on, where whoever loses the most amount of weight from the last playing day as a senior to at some point in the senior spring when whenever he deems the due day. Whoever loses most weight will be able to win a prize of some sort, and I think it's usually some sort of business attire. So I think he instilled that in us. I mean, he's out there working out with us, putting us in our place as players, and carrying that out every day. And he stressed it as we continue on with the game to stay active, stay sharp, and it's carried quite a bit for me personally, and for a lot of other guys in my grade. I'm now living with Corbin Stahl, who was a 2015 football guy from Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. He was a big D lineman and now could pass as a skill player. So it's pretty funny to see how guys shrink and by how much. And I think it's also a testament to how much work that they were putting in while they're at Dartmouth and before Dartmouth to keep the weight on and put that extra time in the weight room.
And you can see Scaff score his second touchdown of the game, and going up 28-3. Man, that feels good. That feels.
Mac, is that another one right through the hands?
And you know what?
You had more passes thrown to you this game than I did.
I don't know if I had a shot at that one like I did the last one. So
I'm hoping there's a replay.
I could have caught it.
Yeah, they're interviewing the former Yale head coach, so he says a lot of connections between the coaching staffs. Dwayne Brooks, I think, for starters, used to coach under him. But luckily for you, Will, I don't think we're going to see that play again. But we have seen a couple of times, and that's Danny McManus, right? Number 34 out there, Ryan?
Yeah, no, a little uglier number than 2. But, no, he did a great job this year. And, it's always fun, especially to see your buddies play, but, even more special to play alongside your brother. And he was always out there for punt return blocking for me, usually blocking the gunners. Every once in a while, every couple games, I would be looking up at the ball, waiting to catch it, and I'd hear someone yell, "Look out, look out, look out," and it was usually him missing his guy, giving me a lookout block. But, very special to play with him, and always fun to watch him on the defensive side of the ball from the sidelines.
Yeah, Yale just can't seem to get out of its own way.
Will, is it an advantage, you think, or a disadvantage to be the younger brother coming in? Is he going to get an extra hard time from his older brother's teammates, or are you going to be extra accommodating for him?
That's a great question because, my brother did such a great job of including me in everything, and that was, from an early age. My mom had a rule that we can only start playing football at the age of, in 6th grade. And here's Ryan. Let's see what you can do here. Oh, man, one man away, aren't you always?
I think I set a record for getting tackled by the punter most. Coach Mack was going to fire anyone that got tackled by a punter or a kicker. Thankfully, he didn't. Hey,
you got to get to the punter, right?
Too many times.
Yeah, you got to get to most guys don't get to the punter end. But my mom, forced us to play. We were in 6th grade, and when my brother went off and started playing in 6th grade, and I was like a lost dog, so I was able to play in 4th grade. So from that early age, I was very much included with him and his friends. He looked out for me the best way he could. He was always trying to stay between, looking out for his friends and looking out for me, and sometimes those clash. But he did a great job. I felt very included as being part of that team and part of the team we were on together prior. He was another mentor in my life as how to play football and how to play football hard. And that's something that stuck with me all the way up to Dartmouth.
Incomplete, that would have been tackled.
Ryan, you've got the unique perspective of being the middle kid, right?
Yeah, no, I'm middle of 5. So I've been the younger brother and the older brother. For me personally, coming in and on my recruiting trip, I felt like I already knew a bunch of the guys from hearing stories from my brother. And they all almost just treated me like one of the family already, which made my visits so easy and really made it a no-brainer. I think that happens across the board, but I think I was a little bit fortunate to have an insider in there already. And then by the time Danny was coming through, I think it was a little bit of a similar situation for him. And he had been coming out for a bunch of games over the years too. So, it's definitely special, and I was very fortunate and blessed to be able to play with both of them, especially since in high school, 5 years apart with my older brother. who's actually back up there at DHMC doing residency for orthopedic surgery now. So he's actually back in the Hanover area, so it's come full circle for him. But we were always 5 years apart, so we didn't get a chance to play together in high school. And so him having that 5th year allowed us to, and then when I had my 5th year, it just gave me an extra year to play with my little brother, which was pretty special.
Last week, Jared Gerbino told us that even though he had preferred walk-on offers from Miami and Michigan State, that when he did his visit to Dartmouth, every single coach knew his name. And maybe in Miami, only the guy who recruited him knew who he was, but that stuck out to me. And just about everyone has said that Dartmouth is the only school that asked them, what do you want to do after your playing career ends? And that was always impressive for me. Maybe not the only school for you guys that you talked to, but I thought, Will, I don't know if there were a lot of different schools who said that, but for me, I thought that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it was, picking up where Gerbino left off. When I came on my official visit, they set me up with Steve Dazzo, who was a Chicago guy. He knew exactly who I was. He knew where my high school. I was lucky enough to have Coach Dobes go to St. Rita, so he obviously was a Chicago South Side guy. And the same experience is true for me. Everyone knew exactly who I was. They knew when I was coming. They knew my background story. And then once I got there, I remember, telling my mom, we showed up for the first day. I said, Mom, I think I'm going to commit here. And she said, why don't you wait till we go home, and then you can call those other coaches talking to you, and then you can commit to Coach T then. But I was so ready to dive right in. I think that made a huge difference for me. And then beyond that, when I'm, going to school with guys like Ryan, going to school with, smart guys like Kyle Bramble and, Will Constance, another guy who's, you had David Caldwell, Patty Clancy, all guys who love to play the game, but we're smart guys. We're thinking about their future as well. Doing that helped me really grow as an individual and say, hey, football is going to end at some point, and we got to bring up the conversation of what you're going to be doing, after you're done playing the game. And so that's the mindset that a lot of players had, and it's a mindset of what coaches had and other advisors at the school, and that was huge for me, because you never think it's going to end until you're sitting there after your last game and you realize that I'm never going to put this helmet on. But so that was two huge things that stood out. I felt like I was right at home. I knew I was handpicked by the coaching staff, and then the second thing was just looking towards the future and having guys who were sharpening themselves up personally to ultimately have a great professional career, and be thinking about that while you're winning football games is not something that every school does.
I think you said it perfectly well. Guys are going out of their way to talk to recruits, introduce themselves to recruits, talk about their own backgrounds, why they chose Dartmouth. One of the unique things for me beyond that, when I was going through the process and was at some of these other official visits, was the fact that guys are coming up to you, going out of their way to introduce themselves, talk to you, tell you why you went to Dartmouth, not trash any of the other schools that are recruiting you, and really just rave about the positivity and of their experience at Dartmouth. So, that was a separation for me between Dartmouth and the other schools. Won't name the school, but just to give a background, one of the other schools I get recruited by in the Ivy League, I was there, and my host ended up ditching me at a party, which was a complete opposite experience that I had at Dartmouth, where guys are coming up, they're trying to get me involved in any of the activities that are going on, and looking for excuses to make it fun for the recruits. I mean, sometimes it's scary to be a high school senior not knowing anybody. I was a little bit fortunate in my circumstance that had met a few of the guys prior to going, but it can be a little scary. You're in a new place. You don't really know what it's going to be like. You're meeting a lot of new faces, and so all those guys going the extra mile really made a big difference. And it wasn't that they were just faking it or putting on a show for the recruiting weekend, but you could tell it was genuine. And after going to Dartmouth and being able to play with guys like Will, Vernon, AJ Zuda, guys in my class, Corbin Saul, Steve Dazzo, all those guys. So being able to go from the recruiting phase into actually getting to know the guys that you're playing with and the guys that were talking to you while you recruit, and seeing how genuine they are and how much they care about what they're doing athletically, academically, and then socially as well.
Well, it only took 7 weeks, guys, but we have the first thing I have in common with a Dartmouth football player, being ditched at a party. So happy about that. Sorry that happened to you. Although it's interesting, a lot of guys, it probably wasn't Harvard you're talking about, but a lot of guys come on here saying, I recruited by Harvard. I went there, and Harvard was amazing. Harvard is Harvard, as everyone knows, but Dartmouth just seemed to have that edge with the community, the family, and something about Hanover. And it's hard to put your finger on, but you guys were recruited even before the renovations came in, which I believe this is the first year of it, right, with the new press box and seating bowl, and it's a big reason, I'm sure, why this was an 11,000 fan sellout. So that must have been a nice addition, Will, when you knew for your final season you're having some upgrades here.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And even when I first came, they had just had built flooring. And what a facility that is. You have the locker room, which is, top shelf. You have the meeting rooms, which are great and an awesome place to, break down footage, be hanging out with your boys, and really learning and growing together. And then the weight room is the place that we were able to, really work out hard and prepare for all of these, tough games that you're about to play during the season. And so Florin was a huge piece for me. And then, when I was there, we were in spring football and they were building stands and, making it look great and, kind of, rising that up from the ashes of what it was. And it still has that same traditional feel. But the seats are a little bit bigger. It has an awesome press box. They repainted a few things, allowed the structure to really kind of glow. And that really brings life to the game. It brings life to the team and ultimately the atmosphere. The scoreboard was nice too. We were able to throw our pictures up there and, be able to see the replay from time to time and understand, get a really clear view of, how much time's left in the game and what timeouts look like. And, those three pieces, as far as facilities are concerned, made a huge difference for me as a player.
Yeah, the upgrades and the generosity of the alumni is another piece that sticks out about Dartmouth. How willing guys are to give back, starting as soon as they graduate from Dartmouth, whether it was going to the golf tournament or just, giving back to the Friends of Football program so that they can continue to make those upgrades because they make a difference. And, as we made some of these incremental differences amongst the facilities and other aspects, I think it shows in the record and the quality of players and guys that we're able to continue to bring in.
Fixed it here. Some great improvements here at Memorial Field.
But at this point of the game, are you expecting maybe for the twos to come in and to give you guys the rest of the game off, or do you need to make the fourth quarter? Or are you thinking, let's just finish this whole thing out with the starters?
They made it a fourth quarter game last year, the year prior in 2014, so we were going to go ahead and make it a fourth quarter game this year. We wanted to make sure we really gave it to them, and there was no doubt. It's homecoming. You're a senior, you're excited about it, but I think there might be a time here as we get another fair catch from Ryan, which he looked great doing. There might be a time where actually we get some of the guys in there, which is good.
Yeah, no, I think as seniors, you want to be out there as long as possible. It's always a blast to see the twos and the younger guys get an opportunity to do so. But they're a good team. They put up a lot of points at this point in the season. And, it's still a third quarter, so we can't let off the gas quite yet.
Let's see some Ryan McManus highlights here. There's one. And 3 catches, 2 touchdowns. So you called that earlier, Ryan.
Yeah. I think that continued throughout the whole season. I'm glad they sped it up so it didn't show how slow I was in real life.
Yeah.
Scrambling here, throwing and trying to find Victor Williams, and it's an incomplete pass.
And that first touchdown pass to Scaff, I think was his best.
John Mark.
He was rolling to his right, not completely across his body, but just a little bit across his body.
This Yale team winds up 6-4 this season. Like we said, they had come in undefeated. Do you happen to remember any of the tougher games or more nervous moments of this 2015 season? Because you're up 21-0 early in this one, and in the end, you don't give up a touchdown. Are there any memories that stand out from 2015?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, so the game that I immediately thought of when you started asking that question was Columbia at home on a Friday night. So we had week 6, we had Columbia at home. Historically, we've done really well against Columbia. We felt we had a better team on paper. And, we got off to a little bit of a slow start. We had a couple of injuries. Dalen was scrambling and came up a little banged up. So we found ourselves in a position on defense that it was 13-9. We were up, but they had the ball driving. Under the lights, I think we were wearing the, I think it was black jerseys, and we thought to ourselves, we're sitting there 5-0, and everyone on the team is looking forward to Harvard. So we kind of took our foot off the gas a little bit, and we're distracted. But that was a close call for me. I remember, having the running back come out of the backfield, knowing he's going out for a pass, and there's only a few minutes left, and that we're man to man, and I got him wherever he goes. That's a nerve-wracking moment, knowing that if he breaks free, we got a potential to lose a football game. So, but having trust in your buddies and knowing that they're going to come bail you out, that really helps. When I think of a nerve-wracking moment, that was one of them. The Harvard game it was a tight one too, but we were in that the whole game. We knew they were a good team, so it's a little bit different kind of feeling than going into. You don't want to go into Cambridge 5-1, knowing that you're playing a good team that might go undefeated. So that was a tough moment for me, and I'm glad we were able to pull it out.
Yeah, I think it's similar. I think the Columbia game that year and the Brown game were pretty similar in that they were, hard fought. If you looked on pieces of paper, you probably would have thought that we would have, had a little bit more of a lead at the end of the game. But both those games were close. They were hard fought. And, it was kind of scratching tooth and nail. And not that it caught us fully off guard, because we get the best game from everyone every week, it seems like. But, just didn't go how we originally thought, and definitely some nerve-wracking moments in both of those games. And then the last one for me would probably be during the Princeton game, Ivy League championships on the line. I think it was at some point in the second or third quarter, it was, second or third punt. And I'm back there, and I muff it, and they recovered on our own 30. And I remember Willie Mack was running on the field, and I was, obviously upset with myself for just dropping a punt and giving him the ball right on the 30. And Willie Mack's like, "Don't worry about it, we got you." And he was so confident. And I remember how he was saying it. And it was I was so nervous, thought that it was going to be a huge mistake that could potentially cost us the game. And listening to his voice and how confident he was, and just looking at him in the eyes, it was pretty reassuring at that point.
We're good. Hopefully we didn't give up a score, and I didn't have to backtrack.
I think we blocked a field goal or something. I don't even think we gave up a touchdown. You definitely held true to your word on that one.
Man, because I didn't know what I was doing.
You remember saying that, Will?
No, not at all. But it's good to hear, and it's the same confidence that the offense would have for us. So, and that's the type of team we had.
But there's been 3 roughing the passer calls right now in the third quarter. That's what makes me think there might be
final play of the third quarter here. Dalen Williams still in, and he'll be wrapped up to wind out the clock. 15 minutes to go. Dartmouth up 28-3, and this is several years before the Patriots-Falcons Super Bowl, so nobody's worried. We're back for the fourth quarter right after this.
Growing your business isn't just one thing, it's a million little things. Should you lease, rent, or own? How fast can you get that part? Does it fit the budget? That's what your local CAP dealer is here for. With expert advice, flexible financing, and industry-leading equipment, you can get the job done, day after day. For a limited time at Milton Cat, get 0% for 60 months on select new Cat compact equipment.
As a trusted choice firm, the Richards Group has been committed to local communities for decades. We take the time to get to know our clients, their needs, and budget. We're independent, so we work for you, not an insurance company.
We use our expertise to find our clients the best home, auto, and business coverage at the most competitive price.
Our team provides consulting services for employee benefits, retirement plans, human resources, and leadership development.
The Richards Group. Prepare for tomorrow by contacting us today.
Set to go for the fourth quarter here. Dartmouth in control. This is 2015 homecoming. Very happy to have Ryan McManus and Will McNamara still with us to wrap things up here. And those two guys had quite a day. Dalen Williams and Victor Williams. They're obviously branded, Brian, as the go-to combo because they have the same last name, but you were targeted 6 times in this game, 166 yards, moving up the record books. Was it hard to develop chemistry with Dalen Williams, or is he just I'm throwing to who's ever open kind of guy?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think every receiver in their own right would probably say they didn't throw it to him enough. But no, he came in right away. He got some playing time as a freshman. He fit right in. He rotated a little bit early on with Alex Park, who was the quarterback at the time. So he was able to get some experience in there, and he was taking reps with the first and second team, right away. And when Alex Park got hurt, he ended up playing the last few games there of that season, and so he stepped in really nicely. And he did a great job of spreading the ball around. Even though that we all complained at different points throughout the year, throughout practices, but he did a great job spreading the ball around. And it's fun running routes for a guy like that who's got all the arm talent in the world, but then can also extend plays because, as Willie Mack knows and all the guys on defense know, the longer you have to be chasing a guy around where you don't know where he's going, the harder it is. So when he's able to extend plays, it makes our job a lot easier and gives us even more time to find space.
Ivy League quarterbacks I've seen.
So he's obviously a big part of what helped this team go from good to great during your careers at Dartmouth. And we've talked to a lot of guys who were seniors during the championship season, but it's great to hear from you guys who really rode the wave up with the Big Green and helped create that wave to championship caliber football. Will, we'll start with you. Was there anything in particular that you look back on as a senior thinking, man, we really buttoned up this, or now that we're good at X, Y, Z, I can see why we're so dominant? Or is it just a matter of all growing old and growing better together?
Yeah, good question. I think for me, I really felt like we had the opportunity to win the Ivy League when I was a sophomore. Back in 2013, we had Bronson Green, we had Dom Pierre, who was a great talent at running back. We had a pretty senior offensive line. Ryan McManus was coming up as a receiver. We had a couple other guys who were great receivers for us too. Bo Patterson was one of those guys. And, then you had a young Dalen Williams, too, who had just come off a season where he won, freshman of the year. So I felt like we had the team to do it then. We went down to Penn and lost in 4 overtimes. We had a couple of tough breaks. We lost at home to Brown, which was tough for us. But then you see, as those seasons happen, you see guys who really care about the game of football. I'm not saying that these guys didn't. Those seniors wanted to win as much as anybody, but really had a kind of refuse to lose attitude and said, we've felt that way before. We know what it means to have a great football team and lose despite everything we've done, and we don't want to let that happen. And we're going to devote and commit time to preparation, and we're going to make sure that personalities don't get in the way, and we're one unit, and we're working as one group, and no one's ahead of the other. And I think that's something, as I said earlier, that those years before us built, and they started that trend, and we just kind of rode the wave, and everything came together because some things have to break your way. You have Bronson Green, my sophomore year, great player, unable to stay healthy, and that's something that happened to prior teams. You catch a bad break here, a bad break there. We played against Penn at home my freshman year. We were down, I think it was 20-0 at at halftime. We came back and made that a 28-20 game or 28-21 game. I mean, that's the type of team we had that we could come back and win. We just weren't going all the way and getting the job done. And I think the difference that, my junior and senior year teams had is that it seemed every year we would beat one more team that had beaten us the prior year. We did that with Penn my junior year, and we were hoping to finish that off my senior year with Harvard, but unfortunately we couldn't. But, before my freshman, sophomore year, Yale would beat us all the time. We were able to beat them all 4 years, same thing with Princeton. But it was just a kind of a belief that we could do it, a belief that we had the team we needed. Not to say that those guys didn't, but it started with them. But it really came together for us just kind of 1 year at a time.
Yeah, no, I don't know if Will left much off the plate there. I think you covered most of it. I think for the most part it started with those guys. They instilled it in us. A lot of the guys that are on the field that you're watching right now have a lot of experience because of some unfortunate bumps and bruises that happened to some of those older guys, like Garrett Wagner, Chase Womack, to name a few that came back for fifth years around that period. But it allowed some of the younger guys to be able to play, and they did a great job mentoring us and giving us the opportunity and getting us up to speed to where we needed to be when we were younger guys. And we were able to take that experience and grow from there. I think it mattered to every single guy in the field. This was something that was extremely important to them, and they were willing to make sacrifices, off the field in order to be the best player and overall help contribute to the team to the best of their abilities. So I think a lot of sacrifices were made in order to allow us to get to this point. And it was important to everyone, and it seemed like right up there with academics that those were the two most important things that people were doing and that they were looking for. Especially in spring, summer, and fall.
Went on a 15-play drive, covering 80 yards.
Quick 3 out there for the Big Green, but at this point you're fine running some clock. And this is one of the rare games on the Woods Watch Party where it's Ivy League play, and the outcome's decided probably by the late third quarter when you get that 28th point. So I've just been blown away by how stiff the competition is. I will always go back to last year where you've got a Dartmouth team that was firing on all cylinders, looked like they'd roll over everybody once they beat Princeton at Yankee Stadium, but they need a Hail Mary to beat a 500 Harvard team, and that's when it clicked. There are no easy wins in this league, so I want to hear your sales pitch. Will, you can go first. Maybe a player who's got offers from outside the Ivy League and in the Ivy League. I think it's a lot more competitive and probably a lot more fun to play in this league than maybe a lot of high school seniors realize when they're making their decisions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think when you look at the Ivy League, you got a lot of guys coming out of high school think, I can play in that league. And that's something that I dealt with a little bit as you had players you play against said, I can go Ivy League if I want to. The Ivy League sends 4 to 5 guys a year to the National Football League. This is a competitive group of guys, and this is a smart group of guys. This is an opportunity for you to, really build a connection with guys on your football team that's going to set you up for a lifetime. And also, when I was playing for Dartmouth, a lot of these guys, you go to the University of Notre Dame, if you go to Alabama, if you go to Clemson, that's all you're live, breathing, and doing is football. And I love football, I mean, that's all I did too. But I was able to, go to Rome for, a winter. I was able to live in Boston for 10 weeks and still had that trust from my head coach and from my, head weight training coach to get things done and be prepared. And just being part of that and having other options and really growing in as a person as much as a player, that really made the difference for me with Dartmouth. I always have this debate with myself and say, would I rather be on a team that I knew when the last game would be, or would I want to be on a team that I didn't know and every single week could be my last game? And I think after the Dartmouth experience, I want to know when my last game is. I want to be able to be a sponge and soak it up with my guys. I came into senior year and said, I'm going to be in the best shape of my life because I only got 10 left. And, as the clock ticked down and you had 2 left and 1 left, we were able to rally as a team and say, hey, let's let's not focus so much on, those things we can't control, and let's celebrate together and let's have a good time. I remember before our final Princeton game, we were going into what was the biggest game of our lives at Dartmouth because we had an opportunity to win an Ivy League championship. Hadn't been done since 1996. And that Thursday night we got together not to prepare for the game, but to just joke around, and we handed out awards to each player on the team. And, for joking matters, I think it was, Dave Caldwell won, most likely to, do this and that, or you stay late and then, fall asleep in the locker room, whatever it was, and just gave each other a bunch of pats on the back. I think that's the difference for me in the Dartmouth experience versus those other schools. You're able to, become a well-rounded person. You're able to focus on your future after football. You're able to really cherish the time that you have together and have other experiences while you're doing it. And that's kind of my sales pitch to a guy. That's been my experience. It's coming from the heart in what I've known and loved about Dartmouth.
It almost looked like the defender slipped or something because that was fairly.
Well, I'd be fired up if I was a senior. Well, that was good. I think a lot of those things carry over for me as well. Being able to play Division I football at an Ivy League school gives you the perfect combination of what you'd be looking for. It's, the peak competition for football as well as academics. And one thing in one line that stuck out to me when I was a recruit, looking at Ivy League schools versus some of the other, FBS schools or FCS schools was, this isn't a 4 or 5 year scholarship. This is a 40 to 50 year to lifetime scholarship. The connections that you're going to make, the people that you're going to meet are going to carry you on throughout the rest of your life, and they're going to matter significantly and make a big impact on your life. There we go, Dave. Pick number 4, whatever, at this point in the season. But those connections that you're going to make, the alumni and how loyal and dedicated they are to helping out and looking out for one another, while they're at Dartmouth, beyond Dartmouth, across a whole variety of fields. And so being able to have that network of people to draw on, while you're at Dartmouth and beyond, is really hard to get anywhere else.
That is good. Yeah, time machine, better body, better grades. Maybe I'm in Hanover. This is good. Now, was that Coach Mack there getting fired up with the defense?
Yeah, Coach Mack. You can see he's just as excited as David Caldwell is, and that stuff is contagious. That's what we talk about, and the coaches feel just as strong. I asked Coach Mack one time. I said, Coach Mack, you get nervous for these games? He said, I'm more nervous for these games. For these games than I was when I played at the University of Florida under Steve Spurrier. So these guys get excited for it. It's contagious for us, and obviously we can't hide that excitement as well.
Yeah, and I think that's another point of separation. The coaching staff at Dartmouth now has been there for I think now well over a decade. And the tight-knit group that they have, it's almost a little family. And they don't look at you as a player as just a tool, or as something that their career hinges on. They go the extra mile. They really care about you as a person, as a student, and it really shows.
Another one of those passes, we talked about it earlier. He had plenty of time.
John Markham once made a great catch. I mean, it's just all effort. I mean, what is it? 28-3, fourth quarter, and he's gonna try to make a play like that. Had that from all levels, all positions.
But just a little bit more of an arc on that football, that would have been a.
Are you still in the game at this point, Ryan?
I'm not sure. I know they might have yanked my leash at some point since I was not fully 100%, but I'm hoping. Fingers crossed.
Nursing the ankle.
Exactly.
We beat Yale in volleyball, and this morning we beat Princeton.
But no, it's fun to watch these other guys.
Team 23-5, and then our soccer teams and field hockey teams on the road.
Is that McCrory?
Well, I was shocked when
Got 5-5 in there.
Yeah, I think Alex McCurry's in the game.
Why don't you just tell me a little bit about this renovation project?
Sure. So we had
I
think that's about the time when Coach Dove was screaming, Willie Mack's dying out there.
That's a good story. We meant to bring that story up.
You got to tell it, because I don't know anything beyond that, essentially.
Yeah, this is calling myself out a little bit for not being in shape, but we had so every year we do a Harvard scrimmage. Right before the season, we go match up with Harvard, and it's the first time that we hit, pretty much live for the most part. And I think we do some thud pace and, not totally to the ground at times, but we had a game. It was my sophomore season. It was in Hanover, and it was the foggiest day in the morning, and then the fog kind of lifted, and then the humidity set in. And man, I was on every special team. I was switching in for the majority of the scrimmage because we wanted to make sure that Bronson Green and myself were switching out and making sure we didn't get hurt, or we were able to get a break from time to time. And I just got exhausted to the point where I was keeled over in the start of plays and wasn't even looking at the ball and wasn't paying attention. And so Coach Dobes yanks me in, I think it was the third quarter of the scrimmage, and puts Bronson Green in there. Now, Bronson Green was a captain. He was a 2-year captain. He was a guy that should not have been in the game late in the Dartmouth scrimmage. And but me and him were the only will linebackers. And so Coach Stevens sees that I'm out of the game and Bronson Green's in the game. I'm 3 yards off the sideline right behind Coach Dobes and Coach Stevens. And Coach Stevens runs up to Coach Dobes and he says, "Now, why is Bronson Green in the game?" And Coach Dobes didn't miss a beat. He turns to him and he says, "'Cause Winnemac's dying out there." And as soon as he says it, Coach T looks at me, and I got such a look. I mean, so I'm not gonna. It's like from then on, I was like, I'm never not gonna be in shape. I don't care what the weather is. It's not gonna be an excuse for me. But it was. But that's the kind of guy Bronson was. He'd jump in there and go play. It wasn't he was better than anyone else. Mike Runger was the same way. Garrett Wymore was the same way. And you had a bunch of guys who were taking a lot of plays that day. Sawyer Whalen comes to mind as a guy who was working hard out there. Cody Fullerton, I think, had to leave and get an IV because he was hurting as well. Nika Mamula is a guy who's always was working really hard and giving it his best and dying in those situations. So it's a little bit embarrassing for me to bring that story up, knowing that there are a lot of guys fighting through it, and I was the one that not only Coach Dobes knew, but Coach T knew as well that I wasn't able to play because I was exhausted.
You never failed a conditioning test, though, did you?
I was lucky we didn't have it one year. I think I would have failed it that year. And the year before, I came up early so I could do it with a little bit cooler weather in the morning. So I kind of worked my way around that. Did you fail it?
No, I was same boat though. I was close every year. Thankfully, it got easier in my opinion from freshman year through senior year. But yeah, the first couple of years of the test was I was clawing and fighting every yard to make it on time. It was tough.
Yeah, they made it tough. They wanted you to show up in shape, and rightfully so.
Kids these days do better.
What did they ask you to do? Was it a mile in a certain amount of time, or do you remember the mark you got?
My freshman year, it was 1,810-yard sprints to start at the back of the end zone through the opposite goal line. And it was split up into the skill group, combo group, and the linemen. And I think the skill guys were under 15 seconds or something like that for all 18. And the only amount of rest you had was the time that the other two groups were running right behind you. So it wasn't a lot of rest. And as a shorter guy who wasn't quite a burner, it added up quick. So, it was gut check time, definitely.
So that's just about 2,000 yards in 270 seconds. Well, with the breaks. That's a lot, guys. So when you brought up staying in shape, well, and there's our second interception there from a guy who I thought watching this game was not going to come back. Thank goodness he did. But yeah. I wonder how easy or difficult it is to get everything in with the academic demands and a practice and then weightlifting. You guys seem to have figured it out. Are there principles put in place or programs in place that help you manage your time when you're there?
Yeah, good question. They do a great job of putting things in place for us. As a freshman, you show up, you automatically have to go to study hall, and they don't care what type of student you were or think you are. This is the Ivy League, and there's a grind that comes with football, and there's a grind that comes with class and the day-to-day, and the social is always a distraction, and we know how that can go. But right from the get-go, Coach T understands that. He says, class comes first. We know you love football. We know we want the best out here for you. But class comes first. And at the same time, when you're out here in the football field, you call it the island. And you're focused on one thing. You're focused on football. I need your full attention. So he did a great job of helping us to balance that, knowing what came first and putting the proper guidelines in place, giving us, buddies to catch up with and follow up with if we needed any support, and saying, hey, I want you to be the guy in the class that sits in the front. I want you to be the guy who takes the best notes. I want you to be the leader in group projects. But I will also want you to come out here and play football to your best ability. And he gave us the tools to separate that and do that at a high level.
Yeah, I don't know if he still uses the saying, be a star, but that was one of the acronyms I think he created while we were, junior, senior year at Dartmouth. But, he always encouraged us to be smart, trained, aggressive, and relentless, whether it was academically, athletically, or socially. Sitting up in the front row day one of class, introducing yourself to your professor, making yourself known and separate yourself that way and be a leader in every aspect, of your life on campus and beyond. I remember my freshman year, I was following, the lead of some of the older guys in psychology class, and it was during the fall, and we had an away game, and I, went up to the professor because Coach T instilled us have a relationship with the professor, go to office hours, talk to them after class, especially if we have an away game and you have to miss something. Just be totally upfront with them and work with them because school comes first. And I remember I said I might have to leave class early one Friday, and she asked, "Oh, really? For what?" And I said, "Oh, I play football." She goes, "What are you, a kicker or something?" And that was my first time I had to deal with some flack because there was a whole line of football guys right behind me that wouldn't let me live that one down. But just that attitude and treatment towards everything that you do on campus, from football to academics, and while you're there, that's the most important thing that you're doing, and focus on that was something Coach T and the rest of the coaching staff did a phenomenal job instilling in us.
You can see Lucas Bavaro makes back-to-back plays on special teams and then a big sack here, and Coach T is excited for him. So he was cheering you on. He was as excited as you are. We always have A Day. That's, if you have an A in a class, you'd always celebrate that just the same way he's here celebrating Lucas making a big play in the football field. So it was always that balance. He was there to help you out as not only a football player, but a person and a student as well.
Coach T, not too cool to clap and smile. I feel like a lot of coaches think that for some reason they got to put up some kind of facade, but I'd love to see that energy.
Obviously a football fan.
No, it's contagious across the board. I mean, you see, late in a game, a guy makes a couple plays in a row, and he's fired up to be making those plays, and everyone on the sideline, coaches included, are also fired up. And I think that was just kind of the attitude and excitement and joy that this team really played with.
Every place you go in the Ivy League, there's just a tremendous.
Obviously, this fourth quarter has been mostly clock management for the Big Green, so I want to make sure we ask you guys, we've talked so much about all your hard work in the classroom and on the field, and it's put you in a great spot to succeed after your college careers. Let us know what you've been up to. Ryan, we mentioned earlier you're working in Boston with the MVP. Is that right?
Yeah, no. So fortunately, after my fifth year, over the course of my senior year and that fifth year fall, I was talking with Coach T on what I wanted to do beyond college. First wanted to give a shot at trying to continue playing football, and so was working out and didn't know how that was going to fit into a professional career beyond football, because I didn't want to miss out on any of those opportunities, and I was trying to weigh them back and forth, and Coach T was in the process of of starting what is now MVP, the company behind the remote control tackling dummies, and kind of recruited me away and said, hey, this is an opportunity. It's going to be a young company. You're going to be able to technically be the first employee outside of the founders. Quinn Connell and Elliot Kastner and John Courier, a football guy, captain of the rugby team, their senior advisor at the Thayer School of Engineering at Dartmouth, and Coach T were the ones that are bringing this, from an idea stage into a full-formed company. So I was a little bit fortunate with the timing and the relationship that I have with Coach T, and the flexibility that being at a young company would allow me to at least give it a shot to work out and have a pro day and pursue those dreams of playing beyond college that a lot of high school guys want, and a lot of college guys certainly as well, and didn't want to leave anything on the table there, but since then I've been working really right from after that end of the fifth year fall through now, really as a jack of all trades, since it's a startup, but on the marketing and sales side of things, and being able to help with business development and partnerships, and watching a company grow from the idea stage, which Coach T was the brainchild behind, and eliminating tackling and being able to expand that across all different levels of football, and then also adapting that technology for training on the military and police side of things too. So it's been really, really great experience. Didn't know that that's where I was going to end up. Initially thought I was going to try to go down the consulting finance route, like a lot of my other teammates are now doing. I know a lot of guys are in New York City doing that, doing the banking, doing the consulting, but also a lot of guys from my year are in real estate, and across the board, guys are doing all sorts of things that are extremely impressive. They're in med school, they're on Wall Street, and it's pretty humbling to look back, especially when you're watching a game like this, and see where all these guys are now, because they're all doing big things now, just as they were doing on the field.
I mean, I went to college in Boston, and there was a new startup on every corner, it felt like. But I have a feeling this MVP thing is really going to take off. It's off to a terrific start. Will, let's hear about what's going on in Chicago.
Yeah, for sure. So I finished school at Dartmouth. I wanted to move back to, I'm biased toward the best city in the world. And I started doing some sales there. I was doing that for a couple of years. I was most recently there's the catch by Houston Brown we were talking about. It was just an absolute strike, and great play. But so I was working in sales, doing that. I was with a startup that was selling finance and accounting services remotely. It was kind of new age freelance stuff. Accounting and finance is more of a white collar job, and we want to bring that to the freelance world. So I was doing that for a little while. About a year ago, I was approached to join in helping to fundraise for a nonprofit here in Chicago. So it's called the Chicago Autism Project. Our goal is to really help kids with who have been diagnosed with autism and other developmental delays in their families, and, be a resource for them in a number of different areas. So I've been able to take part in that for the last year or so. And, everything with COVID and, in and out of the office and wearing the mask has been a hurdle for us, but it's been fun. It's meaningful work. I told guys that, when I'm selling and, it's fun to help people out, but when you're helping kids out, it's super exciting as well. When you get a whole family who's shocked and don't really know what to do in a situation when a member of their family is diagnosed with autism, because the world changes a little bit. Being able to help them out, and so I'm in the nonprofit space. We have of those 12, 13 guys that are still hanging out in the fantasy league. You got a lot of guys that you're watching on tape today, and we're in a number of different areas. Will Constant's a trader. Jack Sheehy's working for Toyota. Frankie's at HelloFresh doing his thing there. Dave went back to get his MBA. Patty Clancy's in the real estate world. Nico's in the startup space. So you have Brian Grove and Bramble. We're both guys who went to the Thayer School and are engineers and doing great work there. So just like Ryan said, we were kind of brought together because of football. We all have a ton of different interests, and Dartmouth helped us get to that next level in whatever career that is.
It's always great hearing about what you guys have used your education to help you do. And I think we heard a couple weeks ago, Ryder Stone's after retiring from the CFL. He's in the financial world now in Utah. And Jeremiah Duche is in medical school, or applying for medical school, so we can help out underserved communities near where he grew up. So not just the paths you guys have taken, but a lot of it really does seem to give back. And that does include you, Ryan, because obviously the strides that football safety has made because of the MVP and everything that's happened over the last couple of years with Coach Stevens. I mean, it seems to be taking off even at the NFL level.
Yeah, no, it's been great, and we've been very fortunate to, be in the spotlight in a lot of these high-profile media, spots like The Late Show, like ESPN, and so we've been very fortunate that way to get the coverage. But I think the true value is, looking at what it has done actually on the field for teams, and looking at what it did for Dartmouth in the first couple years. The injury reduction rate, especially amongst concussions, was, down by over 50%. And so being able to look at that and, not only is it cutting down the injuries, but you also see the record, the wins and losses at Dartmouth specifically, continue to increase over the years as they grow and get smarter and using new tools like the MVP. It's also a little special for me too, because I had a fifth year due to concussions, so I've been on the other side of it and seen, some of those dangers that come with playing the sport. It gave me the opportunity to stick around and play next year with Will and with the rest of these guys and be able to finally win a championship. But being able to see that side and how it can make a difference, especially in practice, because I look back at my time as a youth football player and even as a high school football player, there were so many times when I was quote unquote being the dummy, just carrying the ball so that the other guy like Will Mack could practice tackling me, and just how much smarter we can be with the technology that we have at our disposal today. I think that spreads across a lot of different industries, not just for football. But there we go. Let's see. Danny remembered the don't fair catch rule, even if there's three guys in front of you. But it's been really fortunate to have the opportunity. I think the game continues to grow and evolve with the rule changes and the things that are happening, and I think a lot of it's for the better of the game, and hope to see it continue.
At this point, guys, they're just going to get Vito Penza and Bruce Dixon in here to kill some clock a little bit. I mean, what does a team think about right now? You might have been in your head planning the rest of the weekend for a quarter or so, but what's next? A nice dinner out and some studying, I would guess.
We'd probably, to be completely transparent with you, we're probably, talking about, Harvard, as, Yale being a team that we took down Penn, took down Yale, and then Harvard's our next one. And then after that, we're in the locker room celebrating a little bit. We're singing Backs Go Tearing By. We're counting all the way up to 35. We're going to jump up and down and have a great time. And then obviously continue that out kind of, in the frat area or on campus, just hanging around with a bunch of the guys. And I think that's another great moment about, getting a football win is, being able to celebrate with your guys, not just in the locker room, not just at the meal after, but in that same fraternity that you're together with. So it was a tight-knit crew. We were talking about that, like you said, for at least a few quarters, it seems like, by the looks of this one. But that's what the conversation is right now on the sideline.
Well, Princeton improved to 4-0, so it'll be interesting to see what the Tigers.
Yeah, some of my favorite moments were just hanging out in the locker room, showers, locker room, talking about the game, kind of feeling sore, getting the turf burn out, and just kind of reliving and talking through some of the plays that guys had made, and funny things that were either said during the game or in between plays, and then going to the Friends of Football tent was always special. a special go-between between the game, the team, your friends, family, and alumni at the tent, able to eat together, intermingle with guys that had been there in your shoes years prior, and make some of those connections and network a little bit there, and then transition towards campus with the rest of the student body. So kind of got all the aspects of team time right after the game with friends and family and other alumni at the Friends of Football tent, along with some good food, and then back on campus to return to normal student life and Saturday night activities.
Well, there it is, guys. 35-3 is the final score, so we'll give you your final word. Thank you so much for joining us, Ryan and Will. It was a longer game, a lot of penalties, but so great to have you guys help us fill the time and hear about your experiences. Ryan, we'll go to you first. Just your thoughts on the game, your time at Dartmouth, any shout-outs you want to give. The floor is yours, my friend.
All right, that's a big responsibility. No, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. Haven't seen Willie Mack in a while, especially with everything that's going on. But being able to rewatch a game like this during this season specifically was pretty special to see the faces, especially as they've changed over the 5 years or so here. Mostly getting smaller and skinnier, but no, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me. It's always special to look back and think about your time at Dartmouth, because it is such a big part of your life, and especially if you're a recruit or a current player, you don't always realize it at the time, but it's gonna touch your life in a way that you won't imagine at that point, but you'll carry it with you the rest of your life, and you'll be proud to be a part of Dartmouth forever.
Quite an offensive performance, over 100 yards receiving, and you passed your older brother on the all-time catch list, so a special game to watch with you, Ryan. And then Willie Mack, your thoughts. You almost had a couple of picks, 7 tackles, an all-around terrific game from you.
Almost.
Yeah, it was great to be back in it with you guys. I mean, it really brought back all the memories, all the great players I played with, all the great guys that I'm still friends with. It was exciting to be a part of this. I'm glad I got the nod to be on it. It was really, really good to be here, and the banter back and forth brings me back to those film rooms we're going over and celebrating, after games and that highlight reel. I saw that a couple tackles by some guys that ended up being highlights we saw for the rest of the season. So it's fun to relive the glory days and be a part of this. Thanks for having me again.
Well, you guys are welcome back anytime. Sounds like you're up to some great things and making a difference in the world after your playing career, so thank you for that and best of luck. And thank you to Town Line Equipment for being the presenting partner of today's game. Town Line Equipment is a proud partner of Dartmouth Athletics. Final score, folks, 35-3. Dartmouth beats Yale homecoming 2015, so that means they're just 3 wins away in 2020 from an undefeated Woods Watch Party season. See if they can keep it going next week. We'll see you then.